What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Very Vehicular. I am your host, Brian Scotto, and today we have Mr. James Pumphrey, who referred to himself as potentially my enemy. He jokes, but there was a period of time where Donut and Hoonigan were kind of rivals. We talk about that. We talk about the business of making content. Obviously, we dive deep into just Volkswagen nerdage, and we talk about a lot of everything else. I didn't really ever know James that well. We worked on two opposite sides, and like he said, we were sort of rivals. So this was a great one. It was good to hear sort of his side of things. I got to talk about my side. It was a great conversation. Hope you guys enjoy it. So, I invited you on this show like 7 months ago.
I was thinking about that on my way here. I was thinking about it on my way here because there was no traffic. We're recording this like 4 days after Christmas. And I was like, you know what? I'm glad I put it off. Yeah. I'm glad I pushed it because I'm just cruising down to Long Beach.
So I invited you then, and it's funny because at that time, we knew each other a lot less than we do now.
Yeah.
Because we, one, worked on a movie together, and we'll get into that. And then we also did Treffpunks together. And I think we just talked a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the original idea was like, oh, we could just do a simple like get to know each other podcast, because I think most people think we know each other.
Yeah. We're we're two planets in the same
galaxy, solar system.
Yeah,
but like honestly, but I don't think we could have been further apart.
No, we were technically enemies, I think.
Would you see it that way?
I wouldn't, but I think public...
I don't know. It's interesting because we talked about this a lot. Like, we were both the biggest of who were doing it. Mm-hmm. So without question, we're looking at your guys' numbers, right? You're looking at us back and forth. And I'll just say right off the bat, like, you guys were beating us on numbers, but we also were like doing a very different show.
Yeah, but you guys were also the reason that we did a lot of the stuff that we did.
Okay.
I think it's like two bands, you know? And I think like one of us is Blur and one of us is Oasis. And
wait, which one are we?
I don't know.
I think we're Blur.
I don't know. You guys, I think you're...
Although, a quick little fun fact, Oasis was one of Ken's favorite bands, but it was like a guilty
Oasis
pleasure. He never talked about it. But yeah. I grew up in New York City working on cars in alleyways on jack stands, which means I spent a lot of time on my back. As I've gotten older and bigger, I realized I need a better creeper because I've been known to bottom out a few of the cheap ones. Enter Vyper's man-sized lay-down creeper. As expected, they've got great casters just like their stools. The fabric hammock design is super comfy, and it even has a nice adjustable headrest, which is great for those undercar naps. Check them out, vyperindustrial.com. That's Vyper with a Y. A few years back, I had the privilege to set up the first collab between Heatwave Visual and Hoonigan Industries. And I'm excited to see they're continuing this year with the new Travis Pastrana Gymkhana Future Tech glasses. These look rad. Plus, they're super safe because they live up to ANSI Z87 standards with 2mm thick lenses. That's right, safety glasses and shades all in one. The arms are wrapped in the Braddaroo livery, both inside and out, and the high trail nose pad makes these wearable all day long. Go grab your pair on heatwavevisual.com while they last. Winter is coming, which for many of us just means snow. And Church Van is so ready because I got some Toyo Open Country AT3s on there. This is a great off-road tire that also performs really well in the snow. It's got 3D multi-wave sipes and additional lateral grooves, which translates to giving you more traction in both wet and snowy conditions. Plus, it comes with a triple peak mountain snowflake stamp, allowing you to access most chain-only roads during storms. Also, it's available in E-load ratings for massive beasts like my van. As you can see, Toyo has me covered from my off-road rigs all the way to my soon-to-be-ready track-ready Audi. One of Ken's favorite bands, but it was like a guilty
Oasis
pleasure. He never talked about it, but yeah.
My sketch group when I was in my 20s, like we loved Oasis.
Oh, really?
And I think it's why I burnt a lot of relationships early on because we were just like, we're the best. We're not going to be afraid to say it. That's our persona. We're just going to like walk into parties and like mug people. It's like, who says comedians have to be nerds? No, we're cool. We all like dress cool.
So were
and
you
had
the Noel
cool
Gallagher
haircuts.
of the group?
I'd say I'm I'd say I'm more of a Liam in my life, I think. I always have a Noel.
Yeah.
Like Jesse or Zach Redpath are my Noel right now.
Funny thing, I would just jump on this. So we were all sitting around at Hoonigan and we're like, it was a moment where we're thinking about expanding and doing more. And as making a list of people to call and hire, and Jesse Wood was at the top of the list.
Shit, dude.
And then I reached out to him like 2 days later, and I was like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I just joined Donut." And I was like thinking, like, I wonder how different life,
Dude, my life would be totally different.
things would have changed a bit.
Yeah,
So-
my life would have been totally different.
Because like Jesse was a ripper back then, just in
sure.
terms of like making like drift content, like worked with a bunch of people we knew. So he was just this like guy we knew from that space. And then he went on to obviously go and build like this massive thing with Donut. And I
Yeah.
want to give him his flowers because I feel like he doesn't get them often.
Dude, Jesse gets plenty of flowers.
Does he?
Oh, for sure.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, totally.
All right, no flowers for Jesse. Take them back.
Because no, he deserves all of them, but everyone assumes that the guy behind the scenes doesn't
Right.
get it, but totally he does. I make a point of it. But dude, like, yeah, Jesse's, I think, what I've been looking for my whole, like, since I moved to LA is just like a creative partner where like our relation, it's, I think what you and Ken had, whereas like we really are additive to each other. And I've worked with a lot of people when I was like doing comedy and writing movies and stuff. But those guys were like trying to do exactly what I was trying to do. And we were like trying to do it
So you feel more
together.
competitive.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's like ego involved, and finding a creative partner who just like fills the gaps and is like really good at all the stuff that you're not good at, but then also appreciates and like points out stuff that you're good at was like, I mean, literally it changed my life.
I think also working with a partner, and you were kind of getting at this, like who doesn't want the same end result that you do
Right.
for themselves,
Yeah.
right? Like I had no ambitions to be a driver. I really had no ambitions to be in front of camera. That sort of came because of need when we were making stuff.
Yeah,
with
but you're in
Hoonigan.
front of camera like a Spielberg type character. Like I used to reference you like as I was like we were hiring new staff and like the cast at Donut got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Like before, you know, when I was planning on just like making that my career, we would talk about like how I would evolve. And I was like, yeah, I'll be like, maybe I'll just like be more like Scotto and I'll like roll in and then I'll go take a phone call. And so at one point, like, you know, I come from like like traditional media background. So like I like characters and stuff, and everyone at Donut had a character. And I was like, at one point I was like, all right, so, and I think Jesse came up with this, but he's like, all right, so you're a mix of Scotto, and Kenny Powers and Michael Scott from The Office.
That's a good mix.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. And by the way, I'm honored to know that I was part of that
Oh,
mix.
for sure, dude.
But I it's funny because, you know, our history with Donut goes all the way back to when Ben first like kind of came up with the
I mean,
idea.
the first time our logo ever appeared was on Ken's jacket, and
right before
slightly different.
But it's funny that you call it that way because to us that was before Donut existed.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like that was because we worked with Ornamental Conifer to do his jacket. And donuts were just almost like this joke we had just done, or we were in the process of doing Gymkhana 8, I think. And it was just like there were too many donuts in that video. And it was just like donut. And it was like we just started calling it like the donut videos, right? It was like sort of this joke. Like the origin of donut's really interesting to me because we were somewhat involved early on. And I don't think we really talk about that much. But like Ben Conrad was at Logan, was, you know, director for Gymkhana 4 through 8. I worked under him, kind of coming up on all of those. And I've said this in a previous episode, like I owe Ben so much because like he taught me a ton and gave me a route to be a director. And I think the biggest thing I have to thank him for is like he just lacks ego in that way. Like he totally just let me do my thing, right? Like,
He's the reason I joined Donut. I was done being in front of the camera.
Did you know him from before?
No, I got a random like a cold email from his partner Nick Mosseri.
Yeah.
And they were like, I've told this story before, but they were like, we just did a short film with your friend Josh Fadum, and we asked if there were any comedians who liked cars, and Josh said there's only one.
Just one.
Just me. And like back then, liking cars was sort of like a bit of a dirty secret. It was like a third date confession. Where if I was like sure that a girl was starting to like me, I could then be like, okay, I drive a stupid car. Like we can't valet my car.
Right. Yeah.
And so
there's certain places we can't go because I'm afraid to park my car there.
Yeah. If
there's
we go,
certain gas stations we can't stop at because my car is too low.
Totally. Yeah. If we go to Palm Springs, we will be taking your car.
Because I chose air conditioning delete as a mod.
Yeah, totally. And so I went in and met with them, and like at that point I was just a little exhausted by auditioning and just playing that game. And I was like, dude, Ben is the coolest guy I've ever met.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do what he does. So
is that like just twirl his hair?
Dude, yeah, exactly. I just want to be like, bro. And then like make big decisions. And for some reason he was like, yeah, you can just, I'll hang out with you and smoke cigarettes and go to bars, and I'll just answer any questions you have and involve you in everything I'm doing. And I was like, okay, cool. This is what I'm going to do. And it was like kind of a fluke that I ended up on camera.
Because you came into Donut like year 2, I think, right? Like they did a year trying a bunch of different things. And
so they started, Matt, the CEO of Donut, quit his job at like his previous job in August.
At Awesomer.
I got my first email at the end of January of 2016.
Yeah. It's just interesting to us because like we kind of were watching it from the outside, and then I don't want to get into it, but some stuff happened with us like behind the scenes, not with Ben, but with other people there, and we just kind of distanced ourselves and went on, did our own thing. And actually, the original reason it was called Donut was because Ben and Nick saw it as a company that Ken and I were going to be involved in, and they offered us shares. And we already sort of had a plan of wanting to do content with Hoonigan. Like that was already in the line. And when we looked at the business model, it just it didn't really fit for what we wanted. And also I think kind of what the expectation they had for Ken to do stuff. And for Ken early on, that kind of media wasn't really interesting. It wasn't until later on. It was more of something I wanted to do. So it was like, all right, yeah, you guys kind of go do your thing and so on. And then I feel like, obviously Donut really got its groove when you guys started doing like the explainer up to speed stuff. And it was interesting because I kind of back to before being like, we were the enemies. It was like, I don't know if we ever saw, you guys were definitely competition, but in the beginning, you guys did something completely different than us. It was more like it was more like if we were both on primetime television, we were in the same time slot, but it was like Friends and Star Trek. It was like two completely different shows, but it just happened to be.
It was like Arctic Monkeys and the Strokes.
I feel like they're a lot closer than that, but maybe.
Well, I mean, I think like enemies is the wrong word, but competition for sure. And for a while, the only competition. Yeah. And I think like...
Did you guys ever see Motor Trend as competition?
We saw them as, honestly, like they were
Say it.
I was like, I want to take out Motor Trend.
Yeah, totally.
They were like I had like my crosshairs on
100%.
Them. And
for them, because they were in our crosshairs too. Like I don't think you guys were doing something so different than us that we looked at Motor Trend, and this probably has a lot to do with like my history in print, as like they were the evil empire.
Totally, yeah.
And I loved all the guys over there, like
totally.
Finnegan, Freiberger, obviously eventually Tony Angelo, but I just looked at them as like, you guys are the enemy.
Totally. We were making stuff with $0 and they had a bajillion dollars and
had like showrunners and all these extra people that I wished we had.
And it wasn't that like Roadkill was the first thing
phenomenal show
like what I do. Like it was it changed the entire industry and it inspired everyone who's come after them, whether they realize it or not.
I would say them and Mighty Car Mods.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. But like, it wasn't that I didn't like Motor Trend because I loved Motor Trend. It was like proof of what I could do to like do as well as they were doing.
We had, we did this like industry event where we invited a ton of people from the industry to Hoonigan when we hit like some ridiculous arbitrary number. It was like 1.4 billion like minutes watched or something. And we invited one of the guys, Matt Boyce, who was at Motor Trend, as one of the sales guys, and he came And he came up to me and I'm like, oh, how have you been? You know, and he kind of gave me the sob story. It was like this moment when like things were kind of rough over at Motor Trend. And then he turned to me and he said, I'm not going to ask you how you've been, because all I hear from everybody who works at Motor Trend is Hoonigan this, Hoonigan that. Have you seen what Hoonigan did? And like that was the moment that I felt like we won. Yeah. Because like I had someone from inside of Motor Trend, like, and like he's a really funny guy, and he was saying it in a very like self-deprecating but fun way, just to give me that moment to be like, hey, you guys are kind of killing it, and apparently you're killing it, like, you know, with like half the resources we are. And I think that was what was the coolest part for me, was like how little resources we had comparatively to what they were going and doing, because they had more, I don't want to say TV size budgets, not by any means, but they had more of that structure than I think we did, than you guys did.
Yeah. So. I mean, like, I think you got to keep it in check, because it can get out of control and you can end up being a dick and people not liking you. But I think it is, at least when you're starting, it's healthy and beneficial to create with a chip on your shoulder.
100%. I actually didn't like, once we got sort of in that top tier position, to be like, because then all you can do is fall. Right. Like I heard this thing the other day, and it was like something about, you know, you chase a goal, you know, you're chasing this goal, but no one ever tells you that once you get the goal, then you have to try to keep it. And like keeping the goal is actually harder than achieving
100%. Because, you know, like we hear, I've been thinking a lot lately about like all these buzzwords that we hear all the time, like authenticity and community and stuff like that, and like what they actually mean. And I think people misinterpret them. And I've been thinking about what authenticity actually means, because I am working on this new project. And when you're on the top, and I had this realization with Donut, like at one point we were getting more views than any other automotive channel on YouTube. We were the biggest. Yep. And I was like, we can't act like we used to. Like we can't feign that we're the little guy anymore, because now we are Motor Trend. Yeah. And I remember thinking about that. We had a meeting with me, Matt, and Jesse in the conference room of our first office on Purdue, and I was like, I want to take. Matt was like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I want to be bigger than Motor Trend," and he was like, "All right, let's do it." And then we were, and we were like bigger than everybody, but we were still like pretending that we weren't, and we were pretending that we were still like the little guy. And I like gathered everybody. I was like, we got to figure this out, because now there's guys like C-Boys and you know, Jimmy Oaks and all these other guys with, you know, I don't want to be like narcissistic and think that like I'm on their brain, but like Motor Trend was on mine. And so like, just like we were wanting to take out that empire, we were now owned by private equity and operating with like millions of dollars a year. And we were the biggest. And like, in order to maintain authenticity and to actually act in like what that word means, like I think before I left, I was like having these conversations, which was like, what do we do now? Like, what do we do as the biggest thing?
See, I think the one thing for us at Hoonigan was always different, was I would always just go do something new. Yeah. So I would either be like, hey, let's create a new show. But then even outside of content, like, hey, let's go do events. Like, let's go do this on the apparel side. Let's go do whatever. And a lot of that stemmed from me really enjoying the startup phase. Yeah. And the biggest joke was like Hoonigan was a startup inside of a startup inside of a startup. It was like a nesting egg of startups. So like there was always this new thing to go chase with like a new goal, which also allows you to no longer focus on like this one thing that feels so important. Like, hey, we're number one if we're not number one anymore. Because like, well, you guys obviously had that with daily content. Like we had it with Gymkhana, and like still do. Yeah. Like no one's ever touched that. Yeah. But like there was always that fear that someone would, and someone eventually will, or maybe not. I don't know. In some ways, I think that the format is over. Like I don't think anyone's making that kind of content anymore. I think it's sort of like I always say like that film is grandfathered into the algorithm, and I don't think it works for anyone new. Like you could make a better film than Gymkhana, but it probably wouldn't do as well.
Indeed, even when we were doing stunt stuff, like I would call it Gymkhana light.
Yeah, and it was something that just worked for us, and like we were happy to be goated on that. But I think for us, it was always, hey, what's this other thing we could go chase? What's this other thing we could go do? The one thing we never got to that I was really interested in was like building like a really cool destination, like a place that people were going to come and like experience it. And we called it Hoonigan Land. And it was this concept of like, how do we do this really cool place?
Like a place that lives like there, not like an event or like a
like a permanent place.
Whoa.
Like something like it was going to start as like a traveling show, and it was going to be something that grew out from Burnyard, but the idea was like it eventually becomes this place for other people. And like I know like Cletus has Freedom Factory, and like that I thought was a brilliant concept, but this was more like, what does the Disney World for car guys look like? Right? Like, how could you come and do this? Because one of the coolest things, and I don't know if you guys really ever got to experience this at Donut, but like with both the Long Beach office and the Compton office, we had a store. And like getting to meet people who just randomly would come to the store was crazy because none of them were from LA or OC. Everybody was like coming into town from elsewhere. And it became this thing like, hey, I came into town to go to Disneyland. And while I'm here, I had to stop by and check out Hoonigan, or their dad had to come by Hoonigan or whatever. And I realized like, man, this just doesn't exist. Like there isn't this thing that brings everybody to one place in automotive, and there should be, because there's all of us, right? There's so many of us here. And I remember when I came to LA for the first time, like going to a couple dealerships. There used to be this like motorsports bookstore on Santa Monica Boulevard back in the day, and like you go check a couple boxes, but there wasn't like this one cool place to go. And like that was this thing we were working on like right as the company sold, and then it never happened.
I will say that like I think we got really good at making like videos, like
you guys were hyper focused and being great at that.
We didn't do anything else. Like we did pretty well with, apparel and stuff, but like as far as like building out the brand, like you guys had like Burnyard, and we were like kind of like just in the content minds.
Yeah. But you guys were, your owners were media people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was a media person who kind of enjoyed branding. Ken was a brand and marketing person who content was just something to tell a story with, So I think there was always this like, hey, how can we do this? How can we do the next thing? How can we do the next thing? I think to actually is a bit of our failure, because I think with one point we were doing way too much. There was just way too much going on.
You think that was a failure point?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure. Because I was spread across so many things, and I would start something and then I would move to something else. And then my void would be felt on that thing, because like I didn't really ever replace myself. There was a lot, everyone did their own thing, and everyone kind of got to a point where like very few people were replaceable, right? Like we didn't have a lot of redundancy, and realized like Vinny was on camera, but he was also our number one sales guy. Yeah. So it's like everybody was doing two jobs, and it worked really well until it didn't. Right. Like nobody was just talent. It wasn't until like the last few months that we started to move people to like talent only deals. And that didn't work either. Yeah. Because then they weren't in the building all the time and the vibe changed, but like people didn't want to do all the talent and then also be at work all day.
I'd say that was for me when the vibe changed at Donut too. Right. Like we all were writers or producers, or like when I got hired at Donut, I wrote, like I was a copywriter. I wrote sales decks.
Oh, okay.
And I think there is something to be said about, like you're saying, like startup mentality and kind of being involved in everything. And then once you're finally on camera, you kind of like, you're all sort of speaking the same language and moving the boat in the same direction. And then eventually you're showing up to do a shoot and you're there for 3 hours, and like, it just doesn't, again, it's like, I think it lacks authenticity. And
well, I think something that's really interesting is like our start was not intentional. Right. Like we had all this camera equipment. We were doing a bunch of like agency work level stuff. And that was what the business, like that was our business, right? And actually we were making more money off of white label and doing that kind of stuff like we did. We launched the new Can-Am X3 when it came out. We were doing all those kind of things, as well as making Gymkhana films. And one day I was just like, let's go make some cool stuff for YouTube. Like we have the equipment, like let's just make it with the people we have, right? And we launched Daily Transmission, and that sort of became this thing. Yeah. And it wasn't intentional. Like we never sat there and like sat and like wrote out an idea. It was more like, hey, just quick ideas, let's go run with them. Nobody was supposed to be talent. People just became talent, right? Like it was all very sort of like natural. And that worked really well until I think the expectation was to make more and more and more. And then all of a sudden it went from being, you know, very unintentional to very intentional, right? And like I think some of that really intentional stuff was fantastic, but I think there's other times where you're just like, okay, this was a lot more fun when we were just going out in the yard and filming it, but you can't do that forever. Like it's impossible. It just doesn't work. Like I don't think it's because we hear from people all the time, oh, Daily Transition was the best show. Like, why won't you guys make it again? And it's like a band's first album.
Dude, I say that all the time. Like I watched that first season of High Lows, like the first time we built cars and we like rented this shop in Santa Clarita and we like turboed these two 350Zs and like watching that series, there's no way any of us would do that now. Like we were up for like 48 hours in a row working and we were all making like 60 grand a year and like there's just no way we would do that. And you know, that was like at the beginning of Donut where we were also like working 7 days a week because we just liked hanging out with each other. And we were all just like really this group of friends. We all lived within like 2 miles of each other. And if we weren't in the office, we were hanging out in each other's houses. And we were just like, at that point, we were just rolling cameras and working on cars and like just kind of stoked to be there. And I think the magic of that really lies in the time. And I think, you know, leaving Donut and starting Speed, like as a much older person in a much different position in my life, you know, I went through like a long period of like, sort of like resentment and then like kind of mourning the loss of this awesome thing that I did. And then kind of thinking like, oh, how do I do that again? But then I heard like Jerry Seinfeld talk about Seinfeld and he was like, it was lightning in a bottle. He was like, that group of people to come together at that time when all of that worked, like everything going on outside of the show. And then for all those people to be at the point in their lives where they could like dedicate themselves in that way to that thing, like what a fortunate position to be put in by the universe. And just like, you know, it's like where YouTube was, where automotive content was, where the automotive industry was, where Jesse was, where I was, where Matt Levin was, where like you were, where Hurt was, where Vin was, to all come together at that moment and like make this thing. Like, dude, how fortunate we were to be able to just be a part of that thing.
I totally agree. People all the time will come to me like, man, I'm so sorry about what happened, such and such. I'm like, and I just steal the cliche of like, man, we were there for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, dude.
Like it was so much fun when it was going on. Right. And I look back at it now and it's almost like any relationship. Like I think like you get out of a relationship when you're first out of it, you're like, you hate the person.
And you hate their new boyfriend.
You hate their new boyfriend. You hate their new this and you can't believe that. And you never liked their dog anyway and whatever it is. And
do you ever think that they're actually fucked up?
And like you go through all of that. And then you
hate your friends who still hang out with them.
100. Like, why do you still follow her?
Dude, why do you? Yeah.
And you go through all of that, and then you meet someone else, and you sort of fill those voids that were in your life, and then you look back, and you're like, I don't have those feelings anymore. And that's like a bit of where I'm at. Of like, man, it was such a good time that I had with those boys, and like got to do all this really cool stuff, and what a fun like punk rock DIY era of my life where we had the privilege to just go make whatever we wanted. Hey, you want to make a car show that's like Mythbusters? We're going to call it Scumbag Labs. Yeah, great. We can do that. Like that's totally the kind of show we want to make. And it was like we got to take this time to make all the stuff that like Discovery Channel would have never greenlit for us because it was either too weird or it was too provocative or it didn't like land on the steps that like a 3-act show for them needed to be.
And you say that, and I think it brings up, I think both of us come from a place where like before we were doing YouTube videos, we were in the rooms and having those conversations. Like we could talk to Discovery, like we could get a meeting with like a TV channel. And the reason that we were doing the stuff that we were doing is because those guys didn't get it. and like they would never let us. So both of us were like, well, I'm going to do it myself.
Yep.
And in that time and that's why we went into YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time of us being like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it myself, that entire industry just went away.
Yeah.
And now all my friends or all these people I know who are like doing that are like, man, you really saw the writing on the wall. You really like got out and like started the YouTube thing like right at the perfect time. And I'm like, oh no, I didn't do this on purpose. I was giving up.
Yeah. I was just failing upward.
Yeah. I was giving up, and I just like stumbled into the right decision.
Dude, Ben Conrad and I pitched Netflix a show in like 2015. So this is 2 years before Hoonigan ever does Daily Transmission, and a year or so before Donut. We pitched them a show with Chris Harris, who then later on went on to go do Top Gear, and Todd Richards, the pro snowboarder, as like a Anthony Bourdain type kind of like no reservation show. And we went and pitched them the show idea, and like we thought it was great. They obviously never made it. And I think that was one of those things where I was like, man, this show sounds so perfect. Like they didn't understand who Chris Harris was. Right. Like they didn't get it. And like, then you go and you watch those pieces like work later on, and you're like, they just didn't understand it. And that was like, oh, I guess we'll just go make stuff for YouTube. And like, yeah, I don't know.
Totally.
I want to kind of go back to something we were saying before, which was you were mentioning how there's this lightning in the bottle moment. Mm-hmm. Like you're at Speeed now. I'm here doing my own thing. And as like I start to think about working with new teams, like how do you keep that? Like how, like even it may never be lightning in a bottle, but it could still be something pretty good in a bottle. Like how do you stop that from going away? Like as someone who went through it, and I don't know, and again, might be the longest conversation that you and I will have had, because you and I saw each other at events in between things. We obviously worked on Drifter together, but that was like very focused on what we were doing. And I think Treffpunks was just like kind of like a cool like kickback kind of moment where we just got to chill a little bit, right? So I don't really know that much on your perception, but I've heard from other people who've been in and around Donut, like, and same thing at Hoonigan. You put too many people in the same room that are creative, and things change. Private equity comes in, all this stuff happens. You eventually get to a point where it sours a bit. It sounds like it's soured. Like, how do you stop that now? Like, how would you do it different? Do you have an idea? Do you think about that? Is it something that's in your brain?
I mean, I think like we're only a little over a year into Speeed. But I mean, so Speeed is me, Jesse Wood, Zach Redpath, SR, and now Tim Moore. And then we have another editor, this guy, Tom. But like the four owners are me, Zach, Jesse, SR. So me is me, Jesse is Jesse. Zach is just an amazing director and a really great writer, and just a guy that, like, I mentioned him in my Why I'm Leaving Donut video. Just like we did season 2 of High Low. We all were like, we got stuck on the side of a mountain. Like it was just sort of like, I quit for a week. Zach was like, I'm moving to Paris. And we were like, well, we'll give you like a promotion, like a full-time like contract, like job. He's like, nah, I'm just going to like go to Paris. And so like almost immediately, like when we started Speeed, I was like, we got to get Redpath. And so like he was the first guy I actually pitched Speeed to. He was the first person that heard the name, and because I told him and Matt Levin, because I was nervous to tell Jesse, and I thought if both of them liked it, then I could tell him that they both liked it because he respected both of them.
Right.
So, and then SR, who is like just this amazing editor. And the four of us own Speeed right now.
Oh, nice.
And so I think, to me, like Donut, we just tried so much stuff and we had no idea what we were doing. And like, I didn't even know like the industry I was entering into. All I knew was like, I was kind of sick of doing what I was doing. And I really liked these guys, and now I get to hang out. And so like it evolved so many times and changed what it was so much. Speeed is much more intentional, I think. And I think like we're older than we were, and all of us have a lot more experience. Like we all came from Donut. And so I think like Speeed is very much a second band. Like I have no desire to make Speed as big as Donut.
Right.
I just want it to be cooler.
Yeah.
And more intentional. And so I think that like all of us are on the same page with that like intentional, like it's Speed is on purpose. Whereas like Donut was the only thing that we were wanted to do is be bigger.
Right.
And let's just like be more popular and be bigger. And like, we don't know what we're doing. Like this worked, maybe that worked. And I think like there's still that element with Speed. Like I say, like every time we make a video in a new genre, we're sort of asking permission to be able to talk about that stuff. Like, oh, are we allowed to talk about clothes?
Right.
Are we allowed to talk about outdoors stuff? Both of those were yes. Are we allowed to talk about crypto? That was a no. And so I'd say like, to me, it's just like a much smaller team, much smaller like outward ambitions, and just like the project and like how it looks and how it feels and how it's like presented, I'd say is like much more mature and much more intentional. So I think like we're all, I don't know, just like very much on the same page. And I think we're all working on the same thing.
I think the aspiration thing is the most important. Like when we were at Hoonigan, it was always like, how do you get bigger?
Totally.
How do you get bigger? How do you have more audience? How do you have more views? How do you sell more product? And it was all about like this weird like numbers chase.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I left that I realized that if you're like at some point, like, you know, our total number was like this 25 million, you know, audience number based on multiple channels, all this stuff, right? And you're like, if you're looking to reach 26 million, what you're not doing is servicing like the original core 500,000 or the original core million people who ride or die with you every day.
Totally.
Instead, like you're continuing to broaden this audience. And how could that actually really be good?
Totally.
Right? Because if you, and I think you and I go back to the same analogy, you keep going back to your favorite band. The minute your band makes a song to sell on the radio or to be an MTV hit, I might be dating myself, but you know, or to hit those numbers on Spotify, it's like, or to become a TikTok song, they are now losing the whole thing that made you like them to begin with.
Totally.
Right. But it's also difficult because at the same time, I respect from bands where it's like that first album, you don't want to make it anymore because you've already made it. So it's like sometimes repeating the first album over and over and over again is also just trying to like continue to capture lightning in a bottle versus go do something new.
Totally. And get that bag. You know what I mean? Absolutely. But I think it's just a different kind of project. And I think like kind of culturally right now, I feel like there was like this time for about a decade where just everyone like had this attitude where it's like you and I are similar ages, like growing up in the early 2000s.
I have no idea how old you are. Huh? I have no idea how old
40.
You are. I was gonna say you could be anywhere from 35 to 44.
Hell yeah.
You live in that world.
Yeah. Nice.
Do you know how old I am?
43.
Oh, thanks. I'm 46.
Oh, wow.
I appreciate the down on that one. But the other day, Hurt told me I was 50, so you know.
Well, Hurt's a shit talker. I think there's this period where like we all just kind of agreed where it's like, if it doesn't, like, even if it sucks, if a lot of people like it, you got to admit it's good. Like, whereas like, I think we...
Do you think that's true?
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I used to, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know, this is sort of an opinion I'm trying to form.
Well, the other day, the other day we were on a panel and you said something that I don't think it's a hot take, but I think it's a take people don't want to say, which is people will say like, oh, you know, it's, you know, my stuff's not doing well because of whatever, because of the algorithm, because of this or because of that. And you said something like, it may just not be good.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have to like take that as a potential variable.
And a lot of times it isn't good and it's still popular.
That is true.
I'd say.
Yeah.
And like there's different ways to be good. Like Mr. Beast is very good at the algorithm.
Right.
And he's very good at attention hacking
100%.
Little kids. Does Mr. Beast make good things? No.
Yeah.
He sucks. He's a piece of shit and he's bad for
Just tell it right to the camera. There you go.
He's bad for culture. He's bad for kids. We should call that out. And like, the dude sucks, but he's technically very good at specific things. And I think in YouTube, I think it's kind of maybe dying, but there was a period where like everyone was like, you know who the best is? Mr. Beast. And you can't argue with the numbers. Yeah. And I think that like more and more that's sort of like proven to be damaging across culture. And I'm hoping that we're moving more towards like a time when you and I were growing up where it's like, you should call out shitty stuff. And if stuff is like bad, we should say it. And I want to encourage people as much as we used to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, you know, you hear this in the car world where people are like, you know, what's that saying? Like
respect all builds.
Respect all builds.
Yeah. It's like, nah, dude.
And it's like, I respect that you love your own car. Yeah. And like, that's cool. But like, you know, some kids are ugly. Like you just got to call it what it is sometimes.
Totally.
And I'm not here to like shit on other people's stuff, but like not everything's great either. Like,
totally.
And I think the same thing comes to content.
And I'm not here to say bring bullying back, because I also think that all of the people who make that statement is like, bring bullying back. It's like, motherfucker, you're the one I'd be bullying. Like, you're the one who I think needs to shut the fuck up. You're the one who I think doesn't need a voice. You're dumb. Like, you've never read a book. Quit telling people what to do. You fucking
From
idiot.
two white guys with beards on a podcast.
Yeah. But the thing, dude, it's like, I won't apologize for it because I work hard and like I work with talented people and we study and you do too. Like, you guys know what you're doing. What I'm offended by currently is like, there's just so many people, everyone has a voice now. And I think that like, there's just too much fucking noise. And I think that like, I don't know, get good at something. Like, you got to deserve it, I think. And I think you earn it by learning how to do it. So I'm over fake it till you make it. And now I'm on learn it till you earn it.
Okay, I'm into that one. I like that. I think you and I both also came from a world where we were already on a media path before the internet became like, before kids were like, I want to grow up and become a YouTuber. Like, you and I were already doing media. And I used to always say this, like, I may not always work in automotive, but like I'll always work in media because I just really enjoy media. Like, media for me is the medium, and it's like I just enjoy telling stories, whether it's written, whether it's podcast, whether it's video, hopefully eventually more feature films. But for a lot of other people, it's just like a route to success. Yeah. And it's like, hey, I want to go do the things I love and get paid to go do them, which I think was like a massive appeal for vlogging. Yeah. And everybody was like, I'm going to just go make videos about the stuff that I do. And like, that's going to make me really successful. And it really oversaturated the space. And not everyone's really good at telling a story. Like, I think that is the main thing that separates it. And then other people just do the like, hey, I'm just going to do a really, really hot take because it's rage bait.
That's the thing that like,
it's rage bait.
Dude, if you want to go on vacation and like people want to watch you do it, get the fucking bag. But I don't like takes.
This storytime interruption brought to you by our good friends at FCP Euro. So I have an affliction. I like really unreliable European cars. It almost seems the more unreliable it is, the more I lust after it. So of course, the car I'm talking about right now is my 2002 D2 SE. This is probably one of the most unreliable cars Audi's ever built, but it is so magnificent during its fleeting moments of reliability. Luckily, a lot of the things you need for this car, I can get at FCP Euro. Let me tell you a little story. It's been running great. It's been just fantastic, aside from all the lights on the dash, but it's been great. Then I opened the door and there was this smell. It smelled like a gym bag. And it shouldn't smell like a gym bag. That car actually smells pretty good, real leather. But it smelled horrible. And I realized all that rain we got, it definitely flooded. And when I say flooded, not the normal kind of flooding. This is like water coming out of the air vents level flooding. And that also means water going into the fuse panel, which meant that a few relays might have shorted, as well as a bunch of other things that got corroded. Hit up FCP Euro, had them out to me in a day. This is what's great about them. They enable really bad decisions with European cars. I mean, they are like class 1 enabler, because if I couldn't get those parts as quickly as I do, I don't think any of my cars would run. maybe some of the old Fords. Anyway, FCP Euro, thank you very much. And if you have similar habits, maybe you too should try FCPEuro.com.
I don't like takes. I don't like hot takes.
But you're also a take guy, though.
I'm not really a take guy. Again,
the other day, didn't you say 911s are like dunks or something like that?
911s are like dunks, dude.
Yeah.
But I think overall, hot take culture is like melting our brains because there's like no nuance and there's no real conversation. I'll have a conversation about
Subway takes?
Yeah.
One of the most recent guests he had on said that hot takes are ruining culture.
Oh, no.
I was like, that's so good.
I 100% agree.
And he was like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to shit on. I mean, I support people, and I just think like, it's rough out there in the world, man. So I'm thinking a lot about what's wrong.
I also think like I'm one of those people who have to thank YouTube for so much it's done for me in my life, but I'm also a little angry at what it's doing now for like the creative curve. Like it feels like YouTube really sort of flattens that. Like it forces everybody to make similar content because it works well. Where when I first discovered YouTube, it was this like non-gate kept place that you could put anything up on. You could make a 8-minute video of driving a car through an abandoned airfield and it could work. You could make a video about how to pronunciate words and wear almost no clothes and it worked. Like there was all these like you could make this video about like how to build a log cabin and it worked, right?
Those still crush.
They do crush. Yeah. I don't even want to get into that, but that's like a whole great space.
Yeah.
You ever see the one where like the guy like digs out? We'll talk about that later. There's so many good ones.
ASMR off-grid builds.
God, so good.
Are just
so
like
good.
the best, and they crush. They get like 8 million views.
If I see a thumbnail of like a rusty revolver found at the bottom of a lake, and then like right next to it is the before and after like perfect finish, I'm like, I'm gonna watch this. Like I don't even like guns, but I'm gonna sit here and watch this for 2.5 hours as this guy painstakingly restores this thing and pops all the rivets out. It's amazing.
4-day lean-to winter camp. Best.
Yeah. But anyway, back to it. Like I just think that it's sort of created a model where all the content like feels the same. Is that something that you feel?
I do, but I think that it's up to us to change that. And I feel like so many of my peers are like, well, I don't know what to do. Like YouTube and like the algorithm, and then just want us to make like crap. Right. And I think I was on Colin and Samir recently, and I said this, where I think with YouTube, we've self-inflicted all of the worst parts about the Hollywood studio system, where we can make whatever we want, but we're only willing to make hits.
Right.
And so like, we're only willing to like, nobody's telling us what to do. Like we're independent artists for the most part, especially now that I think private equity experiment failed in YouTube. But like, I think there is like going to be, especially after, you guys went through what you went through, we went through what we went through. And just like overall, just like, it's not really a scalable business in the way that people thought it would be. Like you can't scale a band.
No.
And so I think that there could and will be this like middle class YouTube creator space that doesn't play by those rules. I think like it got grotesque for a while, and I think Mr. Beast and guys like that are responsible for it. Where like all of a sudden you're introducing like the dude spending millions of dollars on a video. Like he's spending more money on a 20-minute video than people spend on feature films.
Right.
And he's getting numbers that for whatever, like there's no categories in YouTube. So like, even though like most of the audience is 4 to 7 years old, we're still held to sort of like the same standard. And it's like, well, if this guy like locked a guy in a room and he got 150 million views, like what are you guys doing? And I think that like YouTube is this amazing place where like we can make awesome stuff and we can self-publish it and we can self-fund it. And I think the main thing that's standing in our way is us and like our just like agreement to make sloppy shit, you know? And I want to encourage people to like, I don't know. I think like we did it last year where we took some risks and like kind of led with like, I want to make this video. And this year we're planning to do it more. Like we just had our last meeting of the year and I was like, all right, next year I want to continue to dare people to not watch our videos.
Yeah, I'm totally into that.
Yeah.
You guys did the Carhartt video, I think was like the second video or something you did. And I remember thinking like, that was really smart because immediately you have told people this isn't just a car channel.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do whatever I want to do and just create this like different space than what I think you guys had very much locked yourself into as Donut. And I think for Hoonigan, we dealt with this a lot, which was like early on we were just like burnouts and drifting and some rally stuff. And then it's like, how do you keep expanding the brand?
Right.
And at a certain point, I actually felt like we were expanding it maybe too far. Like it was doing too much, but it was part of that grow thing. And like, how do you keep speaking to a bigger and bigger audience? But on the flip side of things, like with what I'm doing, like I'm uploading 2-hour-long podcasts to YouTube. That is exactly what they don't want.
Right.
Like it's not the watch time they want. It doesn't check all the boxes, but like, I don't really care. Like I built my business model on it not being successful by being the most amount of views. Because I think if you build the model around trying to make money on YouTube, then you are imprisoned by the algorithm and the way that all works. But if you sit there and say, hey, I'm going to make this thing and it's either going to make money elsewhere for me, or I've got partners that sort of understand what I'm trying to do, and I'm not sitting there chasing a particular metric, and like or you lower the bar of what you want to go and do and then keep it there. It allows you to take more experiments and just like kind of go have fun stuff versus getting stuck in that we always make this because this works. Like this versus that became that show. It was super successful. It was easy to make. It was low budget. It was the winning show for us on YouTube. It averaged 1 million views an episode, like, and we could record 8 of them in a day.
Yeah.
Like think of how nice that is, right?
Good
For a production
ROI.
side. Really good
That's
ROI.
a good ROI.
Yeah. The business people love to hear that, right? But arguably the views said that was one of the most it was the most successful show we did on Hoonigan. The fan base said the opposite, right? Like the audience that was watching it was bummed by it because they missed the banter between people. But that show had a ceiling of how good it was of how big it was going to get. So we had to do something else because we were chasing this other goal. And I think it goes back to your ambition thing before, which is like setting lower ambitions, I think is actually really valuable. Do you know Mark Arsenal?
Oh yeah.
So Mark, like,
he's one of the reasons I quit Donut.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Why?
He was just like a guy who was successful.
Yeah.
In places that I wanted to be,
Okay.
or just like I respected what he's done. And like I think you were too. Like there were a few guys who were just like, yeah, fuck it, man. Get out of there.
So
like without me prodding, like I was kind of talking to him about, because we got the Zoomies thing and I was I felt kind of burnt by that. And he was like, oh yeah, you should just leave and start your own thing. He's like, I'll start a company with you.
Yeah. Mark's got like 100 companies.
Yeah. I was like, all right.
So it's interesting. So I had a similar conversation with Mark and it was over Zoomies. So real quick rewind, Fat Lace Illest, really kind of one of the first like universal automotive brands, right? Like something that wasn't specifically drifting or specifically one kind of racing or, specifically like JDM. Like I felt like they were somewhat broad in what they were doing. And so when Hoonigan came around, they had already been around for like a year or two. And I met him through building my 911, right? Because that was like the whole RWB thing in the US. So when it first started, and so he was great with me early on, like considering that like you could think of us as competitors, like he would just, if I had a question, whether it was types of shirts to use or how different rollouts have worked or so on, I would go to him and he was great. And I really enjoyed his sort of professional friendship through that period. And then Hoonigan started to like really hockey stick. And like we ended up in Zoomies before them, did all the stuff, so on and so on. And, from my side, because I'm a bit competitive person, I sat there going, oh yeah, we're winning.
Yeah.
Like we're winning
Totally.
because like we're crushing them. right? So he called me one night and he said, hey, like, I'm thinking about going to Zoomies. They've approached me and so on. Because Hoonigan was the first automotive brand in Zoomies. Like, we broke through that, which was not an easy.
You guys did crazy.
And we did crazy numbers.
Yeah.
We did all doors. We did a 40-door test. And then within 40 days, we were all doors.
Yeah.
We were the fastest growing brand to ever go to Zoomies at that point. The only other brand that went faster than us was Lil Wayne's brand. But there was like a stipulation behind it because they had like a major like spend to support it. And it was like a limited time. So it exploded. And it was it's one of the reasons we did content. So like I thank it for that. But I think I wish we could have slow played it because it put so much focus on us just dealing with that. Like it was an expansion we weren't ready for. It was, I don't know, like 10 employees, and all of a sudden we're in 600 stores in the malls. But anyway, to get back to the Mark story, Mark was going there and we were talking about something, and he just said to me, he was like, I don't know, man. I just don't know, like, if I really want like Illust to like grow that big, like I kind of enjoy it at the size it's at now. And when he said that to me, he's like, it's just easy. It's like easy to maintain. And I didn't see it as real. Like I thought he was lying to me, being like, oh yeah, of course that's what you say to the guy who built the brand that, shadowed their brand. And then all of a sudden, like I woke up one day and I was like, fuck, Mark was right. Mark is right, because like I don't enjoy this anymore. Right. Yeah. Like I stopped enjoying this. This now feels like a job. Yeah. And the brand is also abandoning some of its early fan base to continue to grow and do all this stuff. And it was this tough world, because I did enjoy the success, and like that definitely fueled me, was the success of making something that did well. But I could look back at it now and go, yeah, Mark was right. Like keeping something to a certain size. Like for me, 15 people was the greatest size Hoonigan was. Yeah. Not that I didn't enjoy the 80 or so people who moved through the doors. Like I loved working with almost all of them, but there was certainly this like sweet spot around 14 to 15. And the way I say it is like, if you can't fit your entire crew into like 2 minivans to go get lunch, like it's the wrong size crew. Like if you still can't get a table to feed your whole gang, like at Sizzler, because Hoonigan used to run a Sizzler, it was a good time. Like you just don't, like you've gotten too big, right? And the minute we all started taking lunch separately was like when the business changed. And like that's just a nice sized company that I enjoy. It'll never be as successful as something that's bigger, but like, man, that's like a really good size.
But it's like,
what is success?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure Mark still likes Illust.
Well, he sold it, but I think no, and I think he did let it get a little too big. Actually, if you were to ask him, I mean, he'd be a good person to talk to. But he's no. It's funny though. Both of us sort of had that similar moment with Mark.
I wonder if that was like a cultural like time thing, just like scaling. Yeah, like if that was like a 2010s tech.
Well, he also though came from Nike, was working at a big company, knew that. I never really worked at a big company. I had worked at like a medium-sized publishing company that ran like this chaotic operation, because it was mostly hip hop and music, like magazines, so it wasn't particularly an organized business. And then I went to go work for Hoonigan, so like I never really had that experience of what Wheel Pros was, which like they were just a big business and had like a lot of moving parts and a lot of Zoom meetings, not just actually Teams meetings, which is the worst. Fuck you, Microsoft Teams. Hate it so much. But
I mean, do you think that like for me, scaling Donut to that big, like even selling Donut was like, to me, it was like validating, and I think that there's like, now that I've done that, it's not that like I didn't like it, but like, it's not the reason, like now I don't have to do that. Like I've done that, and you've done it, I think, even more with Hoonigan, where it's like, oh, cool. With that project, the goal was to make it as big as possible. Yeah. And like under these metrics. And box I did checked. That. Yeah. And that was cool. And so I think it's like smaller ambitions, but also like different ambitions, because I think like with the current project, before we knew what we were going to do, all we knew was Jesse and I were going to do something together. And he was like, okay, so we need to be okay with the idea that it's going to be way smaller from the outside, but it's going to feel way bigger on the inside. Like from the inside, it's going to be bigger for us. I was like, that's cool. And so I think that like there are more, like the ambitions are still there. They're just like different.
Yeah.
I think like a consistency of like the artistry of all the videos. I think the voice is more consistent. I think trying to do, again, like daring people not to watch our videos. I think that's in a lot of ways harder. And so I think like they're more nuanced ambitions rather than just like get as
nuance is everything though.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I live, if you were to ask me what motivates me, it's nuance. Like I love the little nuance stuff. It's like what's what makes everything.
I could tell with Treffpunks. That shit was like so well run. It was amazing.
Do we want to jump subjects now? Because by the way, I like this is to me this podcast is just starting. Because I was literally going to say, like we don't really know each other that well.
Yeah.
But like here's 3 topics we should talk about, and then we just spun out on kind of the Hoonigan donut thing.
The free. I want to stop doing that because people keep having me on podcasts and like asking me questions about YouTube, and I'm like, I should like charge for that shit.
Yeah, it's an interesting space. I'm happy to have that combo with you though, because I feel like we both were. I think you guys did the YouTube thing better than we did.
I think you guys did the brand thing better than we did.
Yeah, that was like where our focus was. I was unwilling to do things for the algorithm. Where like I know that you guys were very algo led because I knew Matt and I knew like how his brain worked. Where like I was only going to do something if I wanted to make it, and I would do thumbnails that were more like cooler looking, even though they didn't work as well, like all those things. And it's funny now because now you get to A/B test your thumbnails, and I'm like, I don't even like how that one looks. And I'll still sometimes choose the one that I just aesthetically like more, even though it's going to get me less views.
Yeah, we'll keep the big one for like 4 days, and then we'll swap it back to the one that looks cool on the homepage.
Yeah, just because it looks better. So, so this is an interesting one because like you and I both started in Volkswagens. I actually think there's an incredible amount of people who started in Volkswagens or VW Vortex who now work in the industry. Yeah, more so than a lot of other like sort of marks, and I don't really fully understand why that is, but there's a lot of us.
I think it's because in order to like shine on VW Vortex, it was almost more important to be funny than it was to have a cool car. Yeah. You had to be like really good at crafting a thread. Like it was its own little media. I mean, in a way, forums, especially those kind of forums, were like their own medium. And you had like all these different kind of people like crafting the right post, like running the right build thread, or just being a really funny commenter. Like if you were a car lounge guy and you were just in it. If you didn't have like a cool car, you could be funny and you could be a Vortex all-star. Yeah. You know? There's this guy, Chapel. Do you know Chapel? Do you know Chapel? Didn't he have like a purple? I don't even know what car he had, but he was like the hero of the car lounge. And it's funny because he's now on my Patreon and he basically runs as like the moderator there because he's just so good at like running community stuff, which I think is funny. But no, Vortex was great for that. When did you get into Volkswagens? When was like your like early 2000s? I think I got my first Volkswagen like 2002. Okay. What was it? 2001 maybe. A 97 Windsor Blue GTI VR6. Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah, mine was really good. My first one was in 97. I had a 95 Golf. I wanted a Mark 1 GTI really bad, but my parents didn't want me to have a car that old. Yeah. And I had raised enough money to buy it. And I was like, you know, for like working in a snowboard shop and like doing all this different stuff. And my dad and my mom said, "How about this? We'll match you dollar to dollar if you buy a newer car." And it's to this day the newest car I've ever owned because it was only 1995. So it was only 2 years old. Relative, yeah, it was only 2 years old at the time. So it's like the newest car I've ever owned. Like I've never owned. My GTI was too. I've never owned anything that close to the on sale date at the dealership. Because I guess back then it was 5 years old. Yeah, it's great. Mine was 2 years old. Yeah, my newest car now is over 20 years old. The newest car I own right now is my 2004 van and my 2002 S8. I have a 2004 G-Wagon. Yeah, everything I have is 2 decades old. Which is totally normal to me and not to my wife or any of my friends. Yeah, well, my non-car friends. So, totally.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, but it's interesting because like you came to Treffpunks, and for those listening, my friend Jason Whipple and I, we did this event called Treffpunks. And I'll let you explain Treffpunks actually instead of me explaining it. I'd love to hear you explain
Here's
it.
what I tell people when they're like, when they were like, so what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, okay, so there used to be. I preface it by like being like, all right, this is like the nerdiest thing.
100%.
And I was like, all right, so there used to be this Volkswagen website called VW Vortex. And now a bunch of us are in our 40s and we can afford to buy the cars that we used to have or want. And so these guys made a camping trip, and a bunch of guys either bought new old cars before the year 2000 or got their old cars that were built before the year 2000 running. And we're all driving up the coast of California-ish, and we rented a summer camp.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were calling it a summer camp for middle-aged men.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty much it with
It was
cars.
so good. It was so fun.
I'm happy you enjoyed.
Yeah.
It was usually when you're the person hosting an event, you don't enjoy it because like you're just so busy with all the logistics of it and making sure everything's going well. But like I thoroughly enjoyed it, and like so did Whipple. Like it was just chill. Like it was really good. It was like good food. It was fun.
Yeah, it was run really, really well. Very mature. Like everything was just like very tight. Like you could tell that both of you have like built massive companies. But then it was like also super fun, and it was cool being around. Because like you can go hang out with like drift guys anytime you want, or like even like BMW guys like almost anytime you want. But it's very rare, at least for me, to be around a bunch of Volkswagen guys who like know all the front lips and side skirts that I specifically know. And so that was like a real treat. Or like people who remember cars that I remember, or
Right.
like then like actually I know where that car is, or like I built that car. It's like, no way.
There was actually this peak moment where we had coffee the next morning after the first night, and Les brought out a box of old Performance
PVWs,
VW
yeah.
magazines, and everybody just sat there going through and like reminiscing. And I felt like, man, this is like such that high school reunion moment where like people pull out the yearbook and like, look at you, like look back then, because like a bunch of guys there had cars that were in the magazines
Vinny was in there.
were inspired by them or stuff like that. So like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. We're definitely going to do another one this year. We also did it invite only, not to be exclusive. It wasn't really the goal. Although if you ask Whipple, he'll probably say that because that's just the kind of person he is. But it was more like just to control it. And I hate to use the word curate because I feel like that word's used so much, but we wanted it to be small and like matter. And this actually goes to like back to the media thing. Do you know Foster Huntington? So I've said this multiple times on the pod, so if you need to get up and take a leak and you're a normal listener, this would be a good time. I was having like a really hard time at Hoonigan. I wanted to leave. This is right before Ken passed away, and I decided that I was going to go pick up this Audi 4000 I had bought in Vancouver and drive it down by myself, and just have like, for me, the only way I can really sort of like meditate and have a good think is driving like long distances by myself. Like I'll drive for 4 hours and then realize I like never turn the radio on. Right. So I pick up this car that barely runs. I'm like fixing it the whole way home. And I go and I stop at Foster's house. And Foster has these like really cool tree houses and like all this stuff. He has a cool like he has like a little pool set up on his property. Like it's just this like really rad space. And he's the guy who started the van life hashtag. Like he's the one noted for it. And we were just chatting, and like, you know, he's had these ups and downs in his own sort of career, both in front of camera, behind. And he just said this simple thing to me, and I you know, I'm sure other people have said this, but he's the one who said it to me, so I'm gonna give him the quote. He said, "Do you want to mean a lot to a little, right? I mean, a little to a lot, or a lot to a little?" And at Hoonigan, we definitely got to a point where we meant a little to a lot, right? Tons of trucks with big Hoonigan stickers on them, but like they didn't really fully like understand the vibe or the brand or whatever. It just became this massive thing. We were the #1 sticker sold at Zoomies, I think, for the entire time Hoonigan was there.
So you guys got to the point where like it's kind of like Monster Energy, where
or No Fear when we were younger.
Totally, yeah. Like
something
having
like
a Hoonigan sticker didn't necessarily mean you knew what Hoonigan was. It just meant you were a kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it became that thing. And And then I realized, like, man, I really, really want to mean a lot to a little. Like, that is like the space that I really enjoy being in.
Totally.
And that's why, like, I went to go do podcasts, because, like, not as many people listen to them. I mean, unless you're Joe Rogan, but, like, most people don't listen to them on that level. But the people who do absorb it and listen for like 2 hours. Like, I listen to the podcasts I listen to, like, I feel like an understanding for those people in a way that like I don't normally. I actually just started listening to Smartless just like last week. And it's funny because I've always liked Jason Bateman, and like, but now it's like, it's almost weird. Like, I feel like I know him better because you can't act for that long on a podcast. You kind of just like let out who you are a lot more. It's kind of like an enjoyable space. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I think for me, the same thing with Treffpunks. It was like, I wanted this to be really good for 30 people.
Yeah, and it was.
And like, we didn't make money on it. We just wanted to go do it, right?
Totally.
Like, it was one of those things of like, hey, let's just go and make this cool thing that we would really enjoy being at. And it's funny because it's more of what I want to do now. Like, I want to make books, even if only 100 people buy them.
Yeah.
Where like, there was so much stuff we couldn't do at Hoonigan because it wasn't financially viable. This podcast is a perfect example. I ran the company, but still, every time I wanted to do a podcast, everyone would be like, it's just too much work for like not the same return.
Totally. Jesse gets frustrated with me because I keep pitching ideas and I preface them with like, okay, so this isn't an idea that's going to make us any money. And he's like, well, someday you're going to have to come up with some that will. But I think we got a couple years before we actually have to.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like.
But you guys are doing well. Like,
we're
you
doing
guys have
good.
Yeah, you're doing very well.
Good.
You have to get out of your brain that you're not supposed to be doing donut numbers.
Right.
But you're still doing way bigger numbers than most people are.
Yeah.
That's doing well. And you're doing the stuff you want to do.
Yeah.
Which is like the best part of what you're doing. The fact that you can go and do like a 1920s camping trip or something like that.
Shit was awesome.
And you could go do that, and then you can also go do like a rant about like where Volkswagen sits today, and you have an audience that will watch both. You have transcended a thing I think a lot of people don't transcend on YouTube, which is it's not about the subject matter anymore. It's about you guys.
Yeah.
Like, they're buying into the thing. This matters because we like this, and that's the stuff we want to tell you. And like, that's where my world started. I started at Mass Appeal magazine. Mass Appeal magazine, before Vice became Vice, Mass Appeal was the mag in New York, and the magazine was literally just things we thought were cool.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's what it was. It was just things we thought were cool. We literally had a section in it called "Hey, You're Cool."
Yeah.
Where we would just interview people we thought were cool.
Yeah.
And you might not have any idea who they were, but by us saying, hey, we think this person's cool, means that you should stop and read it. Right. And this was before like sneaker culture exploded to the level it was. And, we were doing everything from sneakers to like fashion. That's interesting because I see a lot of the stuff you're doing now, and I'm like, man, this feels like a video version a bit of
It is
100%
a magazine.
Yeah.
Like, it's, we obviously not struggled, but like starting a new thing, you want to define it, especially if you're trying to like make money from people, like sponsors and stuff. They want to know what it is. And I think like eventually what we landed on is Speed is a men's style magazine, and cars are a part of men's style.
Yeah.
So like it went from being like, well, originally it was just men. It was going to be donut for menswear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was like the initial idea. And I was going to do like Up to Speed on like Supreme and Stussy and stuff like that. And then like a few weeks into it, I was like, you know what? I really do miss cars.
You and I have had the same journey because I left Hoonigan, did non-cars for a year, went and did animation with Super Plastic, and for the first 6 months I was like, I love not doing cars.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
I made almost 2,000 car videos.
Yeah, I can't even count how many we made at this point. Like, we did 380 of Daily Transmission alone, and we stopped making that in 2018.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's incredible the amount of content
Like,
that
people say like,
out.
Do what you love for a living and you'll never work a day in your life. It's like, nah, dude. If you do what you love for a living, find something else to love, or else you'll just want to kill yourself.
You and I are too similar because I've said that 1,000 times. My dad used to say it. Both my parents are scientists, And my dad said to me at some point, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And it's fucking bullshit. If you do what you love, you will work every waking minute of your life. Last night I had this idea. I don't want to say it out loud yet, but I had this idea and I was so excited about it that I stayed up for like another 2 hours writing in my notebook. And it's like, it's cool because that's exciting, but that was like 2 hours that I wasn't sleeping in bed with my wife, because I was so caught up on this like idea of more work, of creating more work for myself. So yeah. All right, let's get back to Volkswagens. Why do you think Volkswagens right now, at least in my opinion, are having a bit of like a reboot? Because Hagerty just announced like the Mark III Golf is one of the cars to get this year.
Yeah.
Obviously we've seen a couple like Mark I Rabbits, bring a trailer at some good numbers. I feel like a lot of my friends who I grew up with are getting back into them. Like, do you think it's like an age thing, or do you think it's like a response to something? I don't know. I have my own thoughts, but let me hear yours first.
I think it's I think some of it's an age thing. I think trends are just like cyclical. Stuff is popular, then it's not, and then it is again. Kind of like skips a generation or something. I think that like it's probably influenced by the market, where once, at least recently, like once something is universally agreed on to be like a cool thing, it becomes eventually like inaccessible, and so therefore it becomes less cool. Like I bought the Golf or the GTI was actually my second car. My first car was an S13 240SX that I bought for $3,000 and it had like 60,000 miles.
So you were
it.
early on that, because that was before those were cool. Like my good friend Trevor's sister had an S14 that we would take to 7-Eleven to get stuff while we were working on his Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Like never did I think of that car as cool. It was just the car that we would drive back and forth to 7-Eleven.
Yeah. I got my first 240 apparently the same year that Ryan Turk got his. I'm early to every trend.
You really just, that you're just a tastemaker.
I just really pay attention to things and I care about it. But so like, those cars used to be so cheap, and my GTI cost like 3 times the amount of my S13. And I think that like a $3,000 S13 is like really cool. A $20,000 S13 like is way different. You know what I mean? And I saw a TikTok of someone saying that like our culture feels stagnant because there's no cheap rent. And you need to be able to, you need to have cheap rent so that weirdos aren't homeless. Because now, in order to just have a place to live, you can't just be a weirdo. You have to go work a normie job. And then like, you're not just like creating culture. And I saw something similar. Someone was like, Broadway is dying because they moved it to Times Square. And now they're making stuff for people in Ohio where like, plays and theater used to be a thing that locals went to because locals and students could afford to go to the theater. And now they're spending so much money to produce the shows that they have to charge so much for tickets that nobody local, like young and like actually cool, can afford to go do it. And I think that, one thing I'm kind of dealing with is like cool is decided by broke weirdos.
Totally.
And so things that are cool that influence culture are the things that are accessible to broke weirdos. And so I think that Volkswagens are cool. They're inherently cool, amazing history. They look aesthetically, they're very neat. And I think that like, it's just at the point where like guys like us remember them and we're like, oh yeah, dude, maybe I'll get one. But then also I can tell a kid that's a broke weirdo, like you can afford a Mark III Golf. Like you can buy a $3,000 Golf and it's like a good car.
And make it pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
There's a recipe book out there. It's on VW Vortex. Go check out the Mark III forum.
Go blow off the dust.
Boot up the 56K. Run it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in New York City, and I remember when you could live in, towns in Brooklyn and close to the water in Queens where it was $500 for rent. right? And like that was normal, and like that's all been pushed out, and that was definitely the broke weirdo error of like, oh yeah, this is just a bunch of people who've all moved here and like want to go make something cool. That definitely doesn't exist anymore, at least not in major cities. I feel like it's moved to like other places, and people are finding that in other small towns and stuff. And I know you and Vinny have a Detroit conversation. I don't know if that's public, but we can snip it. We can snip it. But
right, we actually went back during the winter, and I think we're less less enthused, but I'm still into it.
No, I get that, and like for me, I always like building the car that's not cool. And it's funny because I'll bring back up the 911 thing you said the other day. Like obviously, we're sitting right next to a 911 right now.
But you had it when it was cool.
Actually, no, but I actually bought it when it wasn't cool. Like I've owned this for so long, and it's funny because Vinny jokes that I only like things that other people don't like, and that the minute people start liking them, I don't like them. Yeah, right. That I'll bitch and moan and complain like not enough people like old Audis, and because of that, there's a lot of parts and it's hard to find them, and so on and so on. But then the minute that they become trendy, I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, totally.
It's like that.
It's
punk
because
rock thing in me.
you're a tastemaker.
I'd love to hear that, but I think there's also just something of like, I don't know if it's like just the striving to do it differently. Like even as a kid, something as simple as Jinkos were really big. All my friends had Jinkos.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. And I would wear these other pants because I just didn't want to wear Jinkos. Not because like, and they were like the same price. So it wasn't like, oh, I bought the cheaper ones or the knockoffs. It's just that like everybody had Jinkos, and like there was something wired in me that was like, I don't want the same thing everyone else has. I think like my uncle had a lot to do with that when I was a kid. Like I like this one song because everyone else in school liked it. And he was like, that song's trash. Yeah. Like, that's a bad song. Like, why do you like it? And it's like, oh, well, everyone else likes it. And he's like, yeah. And then, like, he introduced me to, like, Led Zeppelin. He was like, this is good music, which it was. But, like, it definitely made me, you know, it's one of those things of, like, I was very, and it really stood out of, like, I purposely wanted to be different.
To do something a little bit different.
Which is almost impossible to do today. I think there's so much, like, there's so many people doing so many things that the nuance is broader and easier to find. It doesn't feel that different. Because to me, it's, I listened to like, I watched your one episode, and I'll admit this, and I'm sure the same for you, is like, I've barely watched any donut stuff. You probably barely watched any Hoonigan stuff because like you're so busy that like you don't really watch other YouTuber stuff, right? But I watched your Volkswagen one because everybody was talking about it like in my community when you did it for Speed. And I was watching it. I think one thing that was really interesting, a take that you had on it, was I actually never thought Volkswagens were cool. Right. When I was younger, because Honda seemed so cool to me, right? Like you had Super Street, Sport Compact Car, like Honda Tuner, like, you know, all of these magazines that were completely focused at the Honda industry. And like we had to buy our magazines at Barnes & Noble for $10 because they were imported from Europe. Like it didn't feel like the culture was here. I felt like I was part of a culture that existed overseas. And because of that, it felt cool to me because when I went to, you know, like Francis Lewis Boulevard in Queens, I was like one of few Volkswagens and there was hundreds of Civics. But it feels like your vision of it is a little different. Maybe that's because you came in a little bit later to it.
My vision of it was I lived in Louisville, Kentucky. And to me, the exotic land where like all the Volkswagens was like Long Island and like Pennsylvania and New Hampshire, and all these like East Coast guys had these like sick builds, and like, oh dude, if I lived there, like they all probably drive around with each other every weekend. Like all these like shows that you guys all like went to. And I was like some kid from the South that just like wasn't a part of it. And like, I don't know, like it's like a chicken or the egg thing, but all the music I listened to was from Long Island and New Jersey.
So you a big emo fan?
Yeah, well, like post-hardcore.
Okay, yeah, call it what you want.
Yeah. Like Bayside and Thrice.
Yep.
And so like, you know, Volkswagens are the reason I dressed the way that I dressed, and like the reason I started getting tattoos. And, you know, it was just like, I think I've always been attracted to sort of like a consistent aesthetic.
Right. Like
everything should kind of fit together and like contribute to like this one vision. And to me, I knew a bunch of Honda kids. And at that point, again, they were like in Kentucky, so they were all like on house arrest and, and shit. Like my friend,
that wasn't where my head was going, but okay.
No, like my friend Raymer, like literally got arrested when, like, I let him drive my GTI, and he like just ripped down Shelbyville Road and got pulled over and had like a warrant and got arrested. And like he was driving my car because like I had been drinking, and like like the cops arrested him and just like left me with my car. And I was like,
how do I get home?
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna like chill here. And then I guess I like called my dad or something. But like that was Hondas to me. And so like, yeah, having a Volkswagen, I was like classier. You know, like I bought my magazines at Barnes and Noble.
At a bookstore.
Yeah.
You had to go to a bookstore.
They had British pounds on them.
Yeah.
They're this big. And like the scene didn't exist where I lived. It was like close to New York. You know, this is like a little bit more cosmopolitan.
It's funny for you to say that because I ran a Volkswagen car club in New York City, Long Island area called Auto Creek.
Yeah.
And like we did an event called Full Moon Full Throttle where every single month 150 of us got together and thrashed back roads. And I'm so happy no one ever died because I look back at it now as I'm older and I'm like, man, that was so dangerous, but it was a lot of fun back then.
Totally.
So it was that community. And it's interesting because I never thought about it this way, but here's the take. The Volkswagen scene was as close to skateboarding as car culture got before drifting.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that you really like created this like definition, or maybe I think we had that like back in the day in hot rodding, right? Like the greaser was like a look where like you could look at someone and be like, that guy's probably into Volkswagens. Because you're right, like there was definitely a way everybody looked, music everyone listened to. I'm a bit older than you guys, but I listened to emo because I knew so many people in the Volkswagen community. So it was just like part of that culture. Like I grew up more on like, you know, hardcore, like New York hardcore era and like punk rock and stuff like that, and obviously 90s hip hop. But like emo was this thing that I found because like guys like Mark Cheetaman was listening to Taking Back Sunday and his slammed, you know, Mark III Golf, right?
But I mean,
Things
what's
like that.
more subversive or like rebellious than doing something that other people don't understand? And so like muscle cars, you like get it. It's like they're, at least back then, it's like they're fast.
Yeah.
It's a cool car. It's fast. And then even Hondas and stuff like that, it was like, well, they're faster than a lot of even the muscle cars, and they're cheaper. And, you know, there's all these like things you can do. Volkswagens didn't make any sense. Like we were like, so why do you like it? It's like, because I can barely even fucking drive it. It's so low, I smacked the oil pan on the ground and I rubbed through my tires with my fenders. Is it fast? No! There's only like 4 of them that are fast, and those guys are barely even cool.
It's actually true because a bunch of our guys, we had fast cars. We had CNN Performance. We had like the first 9-second Jetta and all these things. The guys were the faster your car was, the less cool.
Yeah, totally.
Mark Cheetaman had like a 2-liter slammed, you know, Ginster
with the 15-inch TH line.
with the 15-inch TH line. See, famous
I know
car,
that car,
famous
dude.
car.
And there's a picture about this big in PVW that I
to like
that
go over
car
with
from.
like a magnifying glass to be like, oh, look at those.
I almost got 15-inch TE or TH.
THs.
Yeah, I almost got 15-inch TH lines.
Do you want to know a funny story about that? And if Mark, if you're listening, I hope I don't butcher this, but Mark ordered those wheels, I think, from Tuning Zuberhor, right? And they show up, and he puts them on the car, and they don't fit.
Yeah.
So his mom is like furious with him because he's young. He's like 19 or 20. His mom's like, I can't believe you did this. Like, you know, these wheels don't fit. Like, you spent so much money on them. So she brings him down to like the local body shop, and he basically goes to the body shop and says like, hey, can you make these fit? And somehow some random guy at a body shop created a trend that
pulling fenders.
Of pulling fenders and like kind of the way that they did it that modified the way Volkswagens looked for like the next, you know, 5-10 years in the US, right? Like that aggressively pulled. Yeah. And look, there were cars in Europe that had done similar stuff, but that car set the stage. It was a 2-liter. It was really slow.
Yeah.
But it was so
I mean,
cool.
it had to be a 2-liter because if it was a VR,
oil pan would hit the ground.
Oil pan would hit the ground.
This is that weird Volkswagen nerd stuff where you're like, oh, I could have more power, but then I couldn't go as low. I couldn't go as low.
Yeah.
Or like you'd be like, I could go to 5 lug with bigger brakes, but then it pushes the wheels out, so I can't run as much
plus
lip
suspension.
because you got plus suspension. And while that's great for handling, it's not as cool for looks.
I think I'm going to put a Mark II rear beam on the silver car.
Is the Mark II beam narrower?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know
So
that.
I have this set of Schmidt race lights.
Yeah.
That was on Joey, that white Jetta.
Oh,
Jetta. And so like they're so wide that I have to like narrow the rear track.
I just like the exact opposite of what everyone else does with their cars. They're like, oh, I want it wider, wide body. You're like, no, I'm going to narrow this so I can run a bigger, lippier wheel. Yeah. So,
well, I put 16x9s on it when we first put it together. And dude, I have different tastes than I used to. Like, I think the car it's really low now on 17s, but like my cortisol level was through the roof.
Bro, I don't know how you drove your car so hammered on Treffpunks because your car was slammed.
Thank you.
Your car is slammed.
Thank you. You have no idea how much it meant to me to show up after years of like, because again, I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, away from like where all of these guys from VW Vortex seem to like hang out all the time. And I think I'm like younger than most of you guys. Mm-hmm. So like I like looked up to this group of people and like they were so formative. And I think like the way I moved to LA and did comedy, like it was a big part of like what made me different than everybody. And to pull up to a parking lot full of those guys and for them to be like, hey, your car's pretty low, huh? I was just like,
are you sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, I've made it to an hour and a half and I could definitely use another 45 minutes of this? Well, guess what? There is another 45 minutes of me and James talking after the 2.5 hours of this pod on my Patreon. Another reason to join. Which, by the way, is being one of those guys on the other side, we all felt really old because I was like, I don't think I could drive a car that low anymore. Dude. Like it was the realization of like me looking at my car going, it's like pretty low, like the tires and the fender. And then you showed up just hammered, dude. Hammered.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I feel like is a term only Volkswagen guys appreciate. To be like, yo, your car's hammered. You're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It means it's so fucking low to the floor that it basically doesn't drive. That it gets stuck on speed bumps. Like, have you ever high-sided on a speed bump and had to have everyone get out of the car to get through a speed bump?
Dude, I had to, on Treffpunks. I had to, because the driveway to our campsite was, you learn the obstacles. You learn the roads around you. And so, I did kick someone out of the car.
I think owning a low Volkswagen, it's like you wanted to like get into rock crawling, but like you just wanted to do it like on a regular street. Like you need like someone to get out and navigate for you. You've got to like go half up on a curve. Like, it's like you're doing the same thing as rock crawlers. You're just doing it on like a standard street.
Yeah. The two best ways to have fun going 2 miles an hour, slammed Volkswagen or giant truck on 39-inch tires.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are you going to build another car for Treffpunks this year? Or are you going to finish?
I would like to,
because you have 2 Mark IIIs right now, right?
I do. One's really taken apart. The green car is basically a shell right now.
Is it rusty? Is that why you took it apart? Just start over with a new one.
Yeah. Thank you for the permission.
I just hate to tell you, like, as someone who grew up on the East Coast and now understands how sweet working on a non-rusty car is, and who just bought a Mark III Synchro that's rusty. It's like, I just don't know why I'm doing it to myself again. Like, the chassis is dry, but I'm removing everything else, and it's just such a pain in the ass. But if the chassis is rusty, just get something else.
And I don't have like a big warehouse to put cars anymore. I only want to own so many cars, and I really like this.
How many is that many? Like, what is that number?
I don't want more than 5. I have 3 right now. I really don't want more than 3.
You sound like such an adult.
Yeah, I want to be able to fit all my cars in my driveway.
I have so many that I'm not really sure how many I have right now. It's like either 24, 25, or 26. I'm not really
But you have a farm. If I had a farm, it'd be a different situation. Like right now I want to like drive all of my cars.
Yeah.
And so like I have a Mark III that I really like. Maybe I want to paint that one. I want to do the interior. I want to shave the bay, and I want to probably do some like bodywork stuff. I really like bodywork stuff. I like doing the little things. And so like, I don't know, I'll either maybe like bring that back finished, or I wouldn't mind something older.
I was gonna ask, like, do you like the Mark 1s, the Mark 2s? Like, you seem like a Mark 3 guy, but
I had a Westy Mark II
I like those.
on 13-inch TH lines.
By the way, for those listening, a Westy Mark II is not something with a Westphalia pop top. It is a car built in the Westmoreland plant in Pennsylvania that shut down in 85 or 86 and then sold all of its tooling to China, which is why China still has Jettas.
Yeah. And so it had square headlights instead of round ones, but not the
long rectangles.
Yeah, not rectangles,
Yeah,
squares.
small
front
squares.
So that car was really cool. It had a 3-speed automatic and ultra lows and 13-inch TH lines. And it was just like great condition. It had like 85,000 miles and like this just like perfect tweed interior. And it had exhaust.
How many guys do you think say perfect tweed? Like perfect tweed is such a that's a good brand name, by the way.
Perfect tweed.
It's also really a great name for a fucking post-punk, post-hardcore band.
Tweed.
Fuck, I'd go watch Perfect Tweed.
Yeah. And I loved that car. So I think I would like a small bumper Mark II would be really cool. I think that's probably the sweet spot for me.
Yeah, I need to like cut down my collection, and I'm actually thinking about doing it as a content series because it's not because I think it'll make good content. Although I do, like, it's a story I want to tell.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that'll actually motivate me to do it. Because like right now, I don't really have a reason to cut down my collection other than that it creates anxiety. Like I'm at the point now where I'd rather have 10 cars that all work than 25 cars where every one of them has a problem. Like even my cars that I drive a lot have issues that I just don't deal with because it's like, oh, I could deal with this, but this one has a bigger issue right now. Right. Like, so I think like having a better collection of 10 is more important than having all of them. But then at the same time, like, I don't know, I like having them all.
Yeah. Squeaky wheel gets the oil.
It definitely is. And it's also one of those like, so like for me, like my perfect Volkswagen collection, like I have my Mark III that I'm building right now. My first Volkswagen or my first car was a black 4-door Golf. And I then VR swapped it. And if I could have synchro swapped it, I would have. I jumped ahead.
You VR swapped it in 18 hours with two.
You know this story.
Because, dude, I did my 07K swap in the silver car. In 57 hours. Basically to go to Treffpunks.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, and I posted it in the WhatsApp group. And it was like, damn, dude, that's so fast. And you go, that's nothing. 18 years old, Queens, New York, dead of winter. All I had was a Harbor Freight 8-piece tool set, 2 cans of OE, and a half pack of Newports. Did it in 12 and a half hours. Drove it to school the next morning.
True story. 17 hours, but true story. Me and my buddy Trevor did it. Yeah. So, yeah, I just don't have energy like that anymore. Now I can't even like change my oil in 17 hours.
Me and he was just like, dude, fucking Scotto, bro.
That's like the equivalent though of like me telling my Al Bundy story.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just trying to relive a moment I wish I still lived in. Like I wish I still was able to, score 4 touchdowns at Polk or whatever it was. Yeah. No, I have that. I have my Mark III, and like that's a cool project. I'm just gonna make it a driver. I think I'm gonna finally build my Swallowtail this year for Treffpunks because like that's a car that looks really good on the internet. My Green Rabbit. Yeah, it's a car that looks really good on the internet, but like,
are you doing an ABF or you have that 1.4?
I'm actually gonna build an 8 valve for it. So Whipples. I originally was gonna put the ABF in there. And the more I drove the car, the more I realized like I wanted to feel like
stuff like this gives me hope for like going back to the YouTube conversation we were having and like the algorithm and things like that. So many guys I know who have built the most insane cars are now building like 8 valve Rabbits. Or have you seen Steph Papadakis's Supra?
No, but I've seen his RAV4, which is fantastic.
Yeah. His RAV4, he built himself like a Supra. It has like 360 horsepower, but it's just nice.
Yeah.
And I think Jason is the same way. Like Jason's built an insane like Y body.
Jason's Mark III
Formula V,
perfect.
Whatever. Yeah, his Mark III is perfect. His Mark II is probably my favorite car at Treffpunks,
which was basically a stockish GTI.
Which is like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us, whether it's old or I really do think it is like a trend, is like we're moving back into like these nuanced versions of cool, because we were at a point, and like you partook, where it's like
I was a big part of. I once thought it was a good idea for us to take a Honda Ridgeline and put an Indy car in the back.
And you know, now that we've made 3,000 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower, it's not that fun.
No.
And there's other things that you can do with cars. And so I think like seeing that movement in the automotive world gives me hope for just kind of like everything moving that way, because everything kind of moves together in culture. You know what I mean? Like music is moving more towards, like, Geese is like one of the biggest bands in the world right now. And just sort of like, I think we're moving more towards like an analog, sort of like slower, more artistic sort of like time.
I agree. And I also think people just like tangible stuff more and can appreciate, again, to use the word nuance. That's like the PB Playhouse word of the day, of like just the little stuff. Yeah. Like for me, I'll be very honest. I found an opt valve cover for an 8 valve, and that was enough for me to build the engine. Totally. To be like, this valve cover is super rare and really cool, and I want to put it on something. And instead of putting a better engine with more power in the car, I'm going to put this other engine in and then just build it in a really cool way. And Whipple actually built it for me. So it's like, because he really enjoys engine building. That's just like not how my brain is wired. But that's like what he's good at. Yeah, he's really good at like, just, I'm going to spend hours measuring this, you know? So, but for me, I think I've been enjoying that sort of going backwards from everything has to be insane to like, hey, this could just be a normal car, but like really cool to me. Absolutely. And that's all that really matters. Yeah. I also think like this is, I think something that Vinny and I try to talk about a lot. And I'm going to get into a weird conversation that I think you live in and you understand, but I don't think of myself as a role model, but I would be not self-aware to realize that like I've done enough stuff that people are like, oh, I look to see what those guys do. For sure. Right. And I think we created this world through YouTube where everyone thought they had to have 1,000 horsepower car to be cool. And when I was younger, even in my car club, like you could have like a ratty 8 valve slammed on Steelies. Yeah. And like it just had cool presence and it was in. And I think, and like that's what I loved about donk culture was like when I went to Rides magazine, you know, in order to be accepted in the world of like hip hop car culture, you had to have an Escalade. So your entry point's $70,000. Yeah. And then you're dropping $15,000 wheels on the car. So it's like and that was the lowest level, because most of what people were talking about were like Rolls Royces and like all Bentleys, all these crazy cars. And then kids in the hood were like, no, we're going to build my grandma's box Chevy and make that cool. And like the starting platform was cool. And I would go to these spots like to go film these cars. And sure, some of them were dope on 26s. Some of them weren't even on wheels yet, but they still had a box Chevy. Yeah. They still belonged because they were part of it. Yeah. And I think that there has been something that has happened in the past 10 years where everyone feels like they need this crazy thing to belong. And it's like, man, you could have like a slammed Civic or a slammed Golf, and like it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool just to keep it on the road. Like just to keep it running and like do small stuff to it.
Well, like I said, I think everything culturally kind of moves together, and like we both had YouTube channels that sold for tens of millions of dollars during a time when like just money was fake, I think, in like the 2010s.
In the end, it was fake for me.
Yeah, me too.
It turned out that money wasn't even real.
But like people were just like selling companies for like $80 million. And it's like, oh, I'm going to start a company. It kind of does this thing. It doesn't work yet, but you know, we just raised $80 million in funding. And I think it's just like, that was just like a decade of fake numbers. And I think that that's sort of proving to not be it's proving to be fake, and everything's sort of like washing out from that experience, like for the whole world. And I think the response is like this more analog, smaller kind of thing. And so, like bullshit companies were selling for $100 million and cars had 3,000 horsepower, you know, and just everything was,
and it was grotesque. It was all just like a good clickbait.
Yeah. It was a gluttonous era.
Ask anyone who owns a 3,000 horsepower car if they enjoy driving it, like deeply
John Force.
You know, that's maybe a little different, but like, by the way, one of the most badass men I've ever gotten to hang out with. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm just enjoying like the simpleness of cars right now. I just bought a Vanagon, and like I had all these plans because I bought it because we were on Treffpunks, and we had like a camera support vehicle, and I thought to myself, you know what would be a really good camera support vehicle? A Vanagon.
Yeah.
And that's like all it takes for me to go purchase a car.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, that's enough of a reason because I can justify it. And that's like why I bought so many cars during the Hoonigan era was I would justify it for content. Like, oh, if I go buy this F600, like that'll be a really cool build on Hoonigan. Never got built on Hoonigan. Now I pay storage for it every month because I haven't even moved it to my farm. But I bought the Vanagon with that idea, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do a 996 engine in it with a 996 box, like all these crazy mods. And I ended up finding a vehicle that was well maintained and just works. And like, man, I'm just really enjoying its stock. And I realized like I may be crossing into this world where I'm just enjoying like old cars just for being old cars.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoy the nostalgia, and I'm starting to realize that there's no difference between my father-in-law who has a Volkswagen Thing and drives it to the beach listening to the Beach Boys as me driving around in my 90s Volkswagen, you know, listening to Mobb Deep. Like there's no difference.
Yeah,
like, I'm
100%.
just that guy now.
Yeah.
Like it's like I'm just the same thing.
Yeah. Like I'm really, like I really want to build like maybe like a Mark I Scirocco with like carbs.
Yeah.
Like a carbed 8-valve or something. Because like the thing I want is like for the engine to take up the least amount of space.
Oh yeah.
in the engine bay possible.
That's just such a VW guy thing to want, to be like, I want the smallest engine under my hood as possible. And then have the least amount of things coming off of it so that you look into it and it's like this like piece of art with like a frame around it. I once got pulled over by CHP in the canyons, and they wanted to state ref me in my Rabbit. And I'm like, first off, it's a 1975, so like it's not really state refable because it's pre-smog. I was like, but you're more than welcome to pop the hood because like it's a stock engine. Like, no, there's definitely something under there. Like we heard it, you know. He's like, I heard that blowing by. I'm like, no, what you heard was a car that makes 50 horsepower stock from the factory trying to get up a hill. That's what you heard. Like it was just trying really hard. And he popped the hood, and all there is just this little carbureted 8-valve in there. And he just looked at it, and he looked at his motorcycle, and he looked back, and he said, motor on my bike's bigger. And I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, you're good to go. Yeah. That was all he had to see. It was like, it was so just like wimpy. He was like, I'm not even going to write this guy a ticket.
Yeah. The green paint makes it look.
Yeah. It looks like it's like a hot hatch, but
I love that car.
It's a mild hatch. It's like lukewarm at best.
Yeah. So you're going to build that for.
The plan is to build that this year. Do an 8-valve, do nice paint. It's original paint on it right now, but there's like enough rust spots and enough dings and dents all around it that I think it's like I'll enjoy it as it is now. Like originally I bought it, and then my whole thing was like I just wanted to get it to run under its own power for a week before I pulled it out and put the 16-valve in. And that was 3.5 years ago. Just kept driving it. Really kind of just fell in love with like what it is. But now it's like there's like a bunch of little problems. There's been problems all along. Like I always refer to that vehicle as like my escape room on wheels because like I just never know when it's gonna break. But all the stuff's like really easy to fix. It's all like
4 parts on it.
Yeah, it's like a screwdriver and vice grip will get you home. But I wouldn't take it on Treffpunks, right? Because like it makes so little power that like it just wouldn't be fun at altitude or like doing anything like that.
So you're gonna do a carb 8-valve again, or like?
No, I was gonna do a carb 8-valve. I was gonna do just Weber's, but Whipple has talked me out of it because Whipple's like so pragmatic. He's so like you just build a car that is like fun to drive and that you're not gonna have a ton of problems with.
I have those like wide ass wheels, and I was like, yeah, I'm willing to pull the fenders. He's like, why don't you just put wheels that fit your car?
But like realize he's like over 50 now, so he's like at the pragmatic part of his life. You know, we're just I'm
all
on
of his
my
cars
way
run
there
right now.
Yeah, I know it's pretty amazing, but well, not all of them.
Yeah, but he's finished.
He's on his way there. He's on his way there. But anyway, Gen V makes they make a Weber ITB, like a Weber lookalike, or like a DCOE. They call them, I think, heritage carbs. So I think I'm going to run those. So they look like carbs, but underneath are actual injectors.
You're going to do like an ABA?
Nope, I'm doing original. I'm actually, the engine I'm building is the engine out of his 85 GTI.
Got it.
Yeah, so I'm building. So it's sort of like a mid 80s kind of period, correct? Other than the ITBs, but it'll look that way. Like I'm trying to keep, and then I've got a bunch of op parts for it, which are like really rare for Mark 1s. Like you see them a lot for Mark 3s.
Yeah.
But just weren't as, I don't know, available. So I'm going to do that. And then like kind of keep it pretty much how it is. I want to do like a sort of like brown interior in it. I saw a brochure from Japan in 1975, and it was that color car, but with this like really sort of cool like caramel camel like interior. And I was like, that looks really good. I want to put that together with. I got some like old Recaros, just like kind of build this car that I wanted to build when I was 21 but couldn't afford to.
Wheels?
So I'm not sure. I have a set of there are these old Audi wheels that I had. I forget the guy's name now. You know the guy who does the split wheels down in San Diego?
Yeah.
Shamboy?
Yeah.
Cham. I don't even know how to pronounce this. I think even if I knew what it was, I'd forget. But he made a split of this like old 13-inch Audi wheel for me. He made just one, and it looks pretty sick. So I'll probably run that. But I've been collecting wheels for my Rabbit, so I think I have like 9 or 10 sets of wheels. Everything from like the classic RSs to like the original RML Snowflakes, like the OG ones that Rotiform made for them way back in the day, to like just a whole collection of like weird like rally wheels. Like I don't know, I just like collecting. Like 4x100 wheels are pretty cheap.
Yeah,
so like they're just like they're a fun thing to collect.
Yeah.
So
my both my Golfs are 4x100 still.
Yeah, like people don't really care that much about like 15x7s. It's not like a wanted size.
Yeah, and Jason's like, why don't you switch to 5-lug? It's like, because what am I going to run, like WRX wheels? Like I think one of the main reasons I like cars is finding stuff. And my taste in cars, I think, as far as like cars I've built, has been 100% just like what I could find. Like I never like set out with like an intention of like, here's my vision for this and I'm going to execute it, because it's just impossible. It's always like, oh, I have this and I have this and I'll put this on there too.
We're very alike, because I'm kind of the same way. It's for me, it's like this weird pyramid of it's got to be something that like fits into a cool style and design, but it also has to be a good deal. Like I'm never gonna buy that set of like, I want OZ Futuras for something. I don't even know what car I want them for, but I want them for something. But like I'm not gonna pay $3,200 for them, or $3,500, whatever they're going for now. I'll wait till I find a cheap set somewhere and refinish them, or get a bang, or find them on a car and literally buy the car just for the wheels and sell the car. Like I enjoy the story of finding those parts more so than anything.
And I'm over wanting perfect stuff. Like I like hella magic color taillights, and I have a pink set on the silver car, and people are trying to sell those for $1,200.
Crazy.
I bought mine for $250, and they have like a crack going down the middle of it. It's like, hey, chances are this 25-year-old piece of plastic sitting in the sun would crack anyway. So I'm just gonna like remove the middleman.
I think like perfectly imperfect cars are a huge thing. My 911, my wife, before she was my wife, knocked over my motorcycle and it scratched the hood of the car, and she was horrified. And she thought, Ashley like was calling the body shop, like, can you fix this? And they're like, we'd have to repaint the whole car. Like that's not like flat white paint. Like it's not something we can match easily. We'd have to repaint the whole car. And she told me, I think she thought I was gonna like lose my shit. And I think it was a mixture of, one, I really was into her, so I was like, I'm not gonna get mad at her over something with a car. And by the way, I've heard people, like I've told this story before on Hoonigan, and people were like, I would have blah blah blah. I'm like, and that's why you're home alone in a basement. But
I sleep in a race car bed.
And it's like, I wasn't gonna get mad at her over something like that. Plus it was probably partially my fault because I had too much crap in the garage. But it also was like, it took away like the worry of scratching anything.
Totally.
Because I'm like, oh, well, I already got a big scratch on the car now. So like, I just don't care as much anymore. And I just found myself treating the car differently after that. It was like,
I didn't paint my E30. And I think if I had, I wouldn't drive it nearly as much as I do. I like street park it on Venice.
this is my worry with painting my Rabbit.
Yeah.
Because like right now I drive the shit out of that car. Like people tag me in photos of that car all the time because they'll just go somewhere and just leave it outside.
Dude, I like I don't know you that well. I mean, I know you.
No, we really don't know each other that well. I think it's okay to be honest
but I'm
about
like,
that.
I'm legitimately, I know of you from afar.
Yeah.
And your history with owning a million cars that don't run. Watching you drive that car as much as you do has made me, as like a fellow car guy, like proud of you. I'm like, man, it looks like Scotto's like, looks like his spirit's good, man. He must like really love that Rabbit.
The car hit this nostalgia thing because that was at a moment at Hoonigan where we were just building 1,000 horsepower cars, and simultaneously I was building a 1,000 horsepower Audi that like still doesn't run right. And and I was chasing this thing that everyone was like, "That's what you should be doing." Yeah. And then like I bought this car off of Corey, fixed it, got it to run. And I just enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it for what it was. And it was kind of actually pretty private to me early on. And it was actually this thing I felt like I shouldn't share with like the Hoonigan audience. Yeah. Because it just felt so un-Hoonigan, right? 50 horsepower, front wheel drive car. Like what's cool about that? Like it just didn't fit. And I think it like got into an episode or in the background of one or something. And like a ton of people gravitated to it. And we're like, yo, what's that Mark 1? And we obviously started talking more about it. And I think it actually like freed me from this world that I had created that like I could only, as the guy at Hoonigan, I could only have like a Nova, a 911, and a 1,000 horsepower Audi. Like I couldn't have these other things because that just didn't work because they couldn't, do donuts, right? Like it was like, there was like this thing that like the cars had to do. And that kind of freed it from me, being like, yeah, people are into this too. And it actually opened me up to buying a bunch of garbage, some of which I still own. Because I was like, hey, people also think this really cool old front-wheel drive Audi is cool. Apparently not, but I did. But I also set this rule for myself that I was going to stop owning normal cars, which is not an easy life choice. Right. Like to not own a daily driver, right? To be like, every car I own is something fun. It has to be fun. And there are days where it is tense because I have to go do a really normal thing. Like I have to go to a normal meeting that no one's like clapping because I drove my cool car there, or I have to go to a doctor's appointment, or I have to pick my kid up and bring my kid somewhere and my car breaks on the way. And like that is really not fun. But when you balance it out, like it is fun to just drive something cool every day. Like I really enjoy that. Like the most pedestrian vehicle I own is probably my S8, but like that car is like it breaks every day. It's such an unreliable vehicle, but I really enjoy it. And then my other one is a Ford van that's like lifted on 35. It's like totally makes like 700 horsepower.
All my cars are specific and old, and I got to the point where like I got access to press cars pretty frequently, and it would have to be like a really special press car for me to like feel better about it than like my car. You know what I mean? Like parking at the grocery store and like you get out of your car and you're like, I'm cool. I'm a cool guy. And so like, and when I first started working for Donut and first started getting press cars, like any press car, I'd be like, this rules, of course. This rules. And now it's like, it's hard for me to find a car that I like more than my cars. Yeah,
I have a hard time.
Specifically me.
I have a hard time driving any new car that really gets me that excited. That's just like a thing. But when I was a journalist, I didn't, other than the Audi, which was a project that didn't run, I didn't own a car. Yeah. So like I was I had pressers every week. That was all I drove. And you'd get excited about just the new G37 when it came out because it was new and someone else was letting you drive it. And
when we first started doing car reviews, like we used to joke that Nolan just loved everything. Because they were new. Yeah. He's like, the new Altima is actually like pretty nice, you guys.
Yeah, it's a lot better than not driving something.
He's like, it's got AC, it's got heated seats, like it's pretty good.
It's funny because I at some point I wanted to get back into driving press cars, and I had driven a couple new cars, and I realized that like the things I was excited about was like 10-year-old technology.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like saying to someone's like, every car has that now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, man. Have you seen the things I drive? Like, I don't know. Like, wait, they all do this? Like, oh, huh. Wow. Maybe I should look at new cars.
I can see the top of the car in the camera.
Yeah, that's like new tech to me. I mean,
totally.
to me, like with the new tech that came out when I was still a journalist were things like hill assist and Bluetooth connectivity.
Yeah.
Like that was new. And like I really haven't like driven many like new cars since then. So.
Yeah, whenever I have a press car, I'll make sure to drive it to like San Diego or something for like I'll like schedule a podcast or something.
Right, just to
so I
like
can
put the
sit in
miles in.
traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. For me right now, I'm like anti-new car. I'm sort of, it's like forcing me to like make my cars more like normal drivable. It's making me fix things like air conditioning.
Right.
Because otherwise I would just like, my wife had like a newer S8. I would just jump in that. And then I would just drive that every day. And then and then it just became the everyday thing. Or like my van before it was modified. I think there's something kind of fun about that slight adventure that you just don't know whether or not your car is going to get you there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I hardly enjoy it. Because like for you, it's cool. For me, it's cool too, but like for a different reason. Like I like the coolness of like it's an adventure.
Yeah.
Like me going to Trader Joe's today is an adventure. Like there's a very good chance we might not make it back, buddy.
Yeah.
Stock up on the trail mix while you're there because we might not be getting home.
Yeah, better get a snack just in case. Better get rations too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just at least needs some noise and like a smell.
Yeah.
And it's got to just like rattle around a little bit.
Yeah, like you have to travel with tools.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be something that you're like, this might break. Or like you have to be the kind of person that's like, can't wait till the end of the year so that your AAA tows re-up. Because you're like, oh man, I've used all my tows this year.
Dude, I brought it up on the past few podcasts I've been on. AAA is the only thing in the world that costs less than I think it should.
I hope they're not listening.
Yeah.
Because the amount I use all my tows every year.
Yeah.
It is such a great deal.
Yeah. I love it.
We should get AAA as a partner.
Dude, we should. And I just want I want to work with brands that I support and AAA. Dude, and don't sleep on the discounts. You feel a little geriatric typing it in, but you'll save some money on a hotel.
You get like $20 off every hotel, and they never even ask for the card.
Yeah.
You literally just like, do you guys have a triple? Like, yeah. They just punch it in. Like, they don't even want to see your card.
Yeah,
They've got it. So I also use them for insurance too.
I have one of my cars insured.
Yeah. This is not a AAA ad, but it could be AAA.
It could.
It could be. No, I switched over to them. They're pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, what other kind of cars are you into? Like if it wasn't Volkswagens, what would it be?
Volkswagens. I like BMWs a lot.
Oh yeah, I know.
I have an E30 with an S54 engine in it.
Yeah.
I
don't get the BMW thing at all. I wish I did.
They're just square. They're square rear-wheel drive cars.
I know. I get it.
Old BMWs.
Yeah. No,
I don't like new BMWs.
I can appreciate what they are. There's some that I think I would buy. Like I could see buying an 8 Series. Probably because they're like the least reliable version of BMW made.
It's like the least fun one I can think of.
I think I could see buying an 8 Series. I could see buying an E30.
E30 rules, and there's still you can still
O2s.
get a nice E30 for less than 10 grand.
I like clown shoes. I think
Clown
those are
shoes
super
rule.
cool. I don't think I fit in one, but they look cool.
Yeah, might be surprised.
I don't. There must be like a stigma thing to it. I was just having this. I had this conversation multiple times, and I had this conversation with my wife. I don't know why I don't like them. It's like someone must have hurt me when I was younger who had a BMW.
I just think E30s, especially, or like E28s, they just like look like 3 boxes, and it's rear wheel drive, and it's just like car. And that's why I like
the
them.
E30, like older Volvos, the Mark II Jetta. To me, it's like when a kid draws a car. They're drawing that car.
Totally. Yeah.
Like it's just a simple shape. It just works. So
yeah, I love BMWs. I'd like maybe like an E34.
Yeah, those are good.
And I want to with a V8. I'd like to do like a E39 M5 engine in it or something, or maybe like an E90 V8 with an S65.
Sure.
Yeah. Like I think I want something with like a V8, but like a high revvy, small displacement V8. That'd be fun. I want a Mark I Scirocco. I want like a bright, like either like bright orange or like signal green Mark I Scirocco.
My Rabbit's signal green.
Yeah.
Just they called it rally green in the Volkswagen color book.
Maybe I'll get an orange one and then we can
We could be friends.
Park.
The other color car I really want in life is orange.
Yeah.
Did you always like colored cars?
I think old cars can be bright colors, and new cars that are bright colors look dumb.
Interesting.
Like an orange 2002. That's
sick.
freaking cool, dude.
Sick.
That's a cool car. Like a yellow Rabbit.
F8, but like an orange F80.
An orange F80 is not a cool car. Yeah.
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 Sorry if you drive one.
Yeah.
So I used to only like black and white cars, right?
Yeah.
I had a white 911, a black Nova, like all my cars were black and white. And even when I first bought my Rabbit, I was looking for a white Mark 1.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw that rally green one. I was like, man, that's just a really, really cool color. Since I bought that, all I want is colored cars now. Like I just really enjoy color. And in a time when you drive through parking lots and every single parking lot is like white, silver gray, and black. Like that's it. Like there's no color in cars anymore. Like in the 80s and like the early and like, you know, all the way through really the 60s, 70s and mid 80s, like we had great color cars. I just don't think we have like good colors anymore. And if you do have a good color, it's only on an asshole car. Like there's really good Lamborghini colors. And I like Lamborghinis, but they're for assholes.
My Mark III is a silver Arrow. So it's like a silver Mark III Golf. And back in the day, like there weren't any silver cars. So like that was like a very sought after Mark III color. And so when I bought it from Matt Crook, when that car popped up, I was like, oh yeah, dude, silver Arrow car? Hell yeah. And then like I got it and realized, oh, all cars are silver now. So it doesn't look as special.
But no, it's cool to Volkswagen guys.
Yeah.
Which
totally.
this is all that really matters.
Yeah.
It's like as long as like the 7 people who know, like that's the reason.
Yeah, silver Arrow 4-door with Euro bumpers, dude.
It's kind of fresh.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, like I once painted a black car, Black Magic, just because, and like for those listening, black as in black magic as in metallic black, but it was like a special Volkswagen color. I did a full respray, like car stripped all the way down, all the glass out to paint it black magic just because Volkswagen guys would think it's cool. I remember my mom was like, you did what? Because I spent an inheritance that I'd gotten from my great grandmother on repainting my car. Talk about the most irresponsible thing you could do at like 21 years old. And I got this money, which
Bitcoin.
it was like $3,100, and I like worked at a body shop, and the guy was like, "All right, I'll repaint your car for that much." And it was just metallic black. Like I went to all that work just to impress like 7 guys who were like, "That's a Black Magic car. Like you can't get Black Magic in the States."
My E30 is painted like GMC 90s truck black because there's nothing in it.
Yeah,
there's no pearl, no glitter, nothing.
So my 911 is painted a pure white. I forget what white it was, but it was like the purest white, but then we put a pearlescent on top of it.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that way it was like because I felt back then like all whites looked off-white, and I wanted like white, like absence of color white. But it like was almost too shockingly white. And then we dropped a pearlescent on it, and it gave it this like marshmallow look, which was kind of cool.
I like white cars a lot right now.
Yeah, I still like white cars. I really hate black cars unless they're big body cars.
Right.
Like I can't imagine owning like a Q-ship, you know, like a big sleeper, like an S8 or like something like that. That's not black.
Yeah,
like it just works.
Immediately,
like
just
Lexus
more
430s, like they just look cool in VIP black.
Like a silver Lexus LS, isn't that cool? That's geriatric. A black LS, that's Yakuza.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need those Yakuza vibes.
Big
for
body
that.
Merc.
So maybe I could get away with like a dark purple. Maybe like a dark green.
Yeah.
But it's gotta be dark. Like it has to feel menacing. Yeah. There's nothing menacing about a silver car.
I think some cars, like white cars, can look like fleet.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, or they can look like really cool. So like a nice car in white is sick. Or like a lot of old cars in white are sick, but a cheap car in white is like more cheap.
Rental.
Right.
Feels like a rental car. Yeah. That's how I feel about old trucks. Like old white trucks look like contractor grade trucks, not as cool.
No.
Where like an old black truck looks really cool because they're actually kind of rare.
Yeah.
Like I had an old black 7.3 old body style Ford, and like that thing was really rare. You like to think a black truck is rare. It's like, yeah, they mostly came in silver, and like then a bunch of people bought them in red for some reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm now on this thing where it's like I just want to own a bunch of color cars. So like as I was saying before, like I got these 24 to 26 cars. I want to make this concept, and the name of the show is just going to be like Does It Run, because I was like, this big like joke was like, is it Scotto's Does It Run, was this like Hoonigan joke, and I want to kind of go through, cut it down to like 10, but like I have like all these like mandates I need, which is like I have to have a certain types of cars. I need like, I need my sports car, I need my van, I need this, I need that, but then I also have like the color cars I want to own. And this what all came off the tangent was I really do want an orange car. I had an orange Opal at one point, but I sold it before I ever got it running. But it was like, that's such a quintessential like late 70s, early 80s color. It's so good.
Yeah. I want a bright old car, maybe for Treffpunks next year. Because like old cars, you can get away with a lot more without being a douchebag.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's subject change real quick.
Yeah.
Drifter movie.
Yeah.
That was fun working with you on it.
Dude,
we don't have to talk too much about the movie because I don't know what we can say and what we can't say yet, and I don't know when it's coming out or anything. But it was fun to work with you on something in like kind of a space I think that was outside of what the two of us spend most of our time in now.
Totally. And it's a thing that like I came from that world.
Right.
And I think like I feel like I have my pre-donut professional life, then my donut professional life, and then starting Speed and Sung calling me out of the blue to do that movie kind of like made my post-donut life sort of like combine my whole life. And I feel like that was a thing that like really made me feel more like myself in a time that like I needed to. And so it was like just like such a great experience, like being on set, really great car curation. I met people that like I hang out with all the time, and it was cool because like I'm very aware of you and I'm very aware of like what you've made, but I've never been on set with you.
Right.
And so there you directed second unit, but there was a day where like you directed me and I was like, that's pretty cool. And it made me I want to make a movie now,
Oh yeah.
And like, I think there's all this talk of like Hollywood being dead or whatever, but like, it's like, we've made big projects that cost as much as features. And, I make 45-minute YouTube videos now. So just like, how do we double that? And I think that like, it's totally realistic to think about like making a movie. And I think, and even like starting to think about like what like distribution would look like maybe we do it on YouTube and sell tickets like in that way. I think there's just creative ways to do everything. I don't know. It was like, I just really, really liked it and I wanted to do it again.
Yeah, I had a similar sort of like awakening. Like I always wanted to do a movie, and something that's always been like there. Back in the day, David Ayer, who worked on Training Day, rewrote Fast and Furious, did Fury, End of Watch, a bunch of great stuff. He reached out to Ben Conrad and wanted to do a Gymkhana movie, and that like planted this like seed in my head of like, man, I really want to do this. Like this would be really cool to do one day. We chased it, never really kind of came together, and then I got that phone call from Sung. Mine originally was to actually work on the initial D project. For various reasons that paused, and Sung was like, I just want to go make something. Like I'm going to make my own film, and I want to have the control. I don't want to have to deal with the studio. Like we're going to fund it. We're going to do this whole thing, and I want you to do all the action for it. Which was this really, really amazing experience because Sung let me sort of run most of the second unit stuff just completely on my own and like kind of figure that out, run my own team, Will Rogie, the whole group. But then I think the part of it that I was unexpecting was getting to jump in and help with some of the narrative stuff, like working with you, got to work with Michael, got to work with a bunch of other people, Rosie, like Tamara's character, and like I wasn't expecting that. And one of the things that when I went there, I was a little bummed the first few days because I was so busy that I thought I was going to be able to get to like shadow Sung and like watch what was happening on main unit. But honestly, like if second unit wasn't operating, I was doing something else to help main unit for the next day or do something else or whatever, or just continue to work logistics. So as the shoot went on and they started to kind of run behind schedule, and Sung and Chris were giving me stuff to do, I was like, man, I really like this.
Yeah.
Right. Like I really enjoy not just the action stuff, which is something that feels very second nature to me at this point. I've been doing it for almost 20 years, but like, I really enjoy the narrative stuff. And I immediately after that came home, sat with, Will, and was like, I want to go do this. Like, I want to go make a movie. You and I talked about it, I think on like one of the last days we had on set in Willow, of like, man, how do we go do this? Like, how, like if there is anything that project showed me, is that I could go do this myself.
Yeah.
Right. Or with other people, but like this is possible. Right. Because it always felt like it was this other world. Like it wasn't close to what we were doing. It was like, oh, there's like what we do for YouTube, and then there's Hollywood, and we're not Hollywood. Yeah. But and granted, that was like a low budget independent film. But I was like, man, we could definitely go make this. Like this feels like something that's within reach. And I immediately went home and like bought all the books. Yeah. Like just
Save the Cat yet?
Save the Cat. I'm actually reading Roger Corman's like how I made, money, like how I never lost money in making films, or something, like how I made $1 million. I forget what the name of it is, but Roger Corman, he's like king of the B films. And it's actually a really great read because he just writes about how to just make low budget stuff. And I think that I enjoy that creative kind of like sandbox, because like that's how it was at Hoonigan. Yeah, it was like, hey, we can't afford to do this, so like we have to do it this way. Yeah, and that book is really like he did all this stuff, and there's all these like great actors and great directors who worked with him, from Scorsese, like, and so on. But he was known for just like how cheap can you make it, and it's just like an interesting look at it, because when I look at what we've done, I think the reason why Hoonigan was successful, Donut was successful, and a lot of other people who are our peers, is because we got to sort of bushwhack in a time where no one was doing it. Totally. And like you look right now and you're like, yeah, Hollywood's falling. This is the perfect time to go make something. And they're telling everybody
to figure out how to make it and self-produce.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we've been doing it for 10 years, I think.
And it's like, I don't think the movies, I don't think the theater, I don't think the audience is the problem. I just think that the traditional way of going about it's the problem. And this is just that standard bloat, right? You get to you
spend too much money on the wrong thing. There's no lack of money. There's a ton of money. They just some people want more of it, and they want to charge. Like even like that was another like Subway takes that I just saw recently.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's just like if you want to save the film industry, executives and like the top of the bill.
Oh, I did see that.
Actors just take less money and pay more people more money.
It'd be fine.
Fucking idiots.
It's great.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Just like make cheaper stuff, pay certain people less money,
yeah,
and most people more money.
Well, there's a couple movies that have done that model of like paying everybody scale, which is like the basic rate for the union, and then everybody earns on the movie making money. And I think that's like really valuable. Like if I could redo Hoonigan, and realize like I only own 10% of Hoonigan. Like it was Ken's company, and Wasserman was our other partner. I may have done most of the work because I was the one running it, but that was my sweat equity that I was putting into the company. But if I was to redo it now, knowing what I did, I think at some point there needed to be like a way that everybody felt like they were earning on the business doing well.
I think that's the big
But that being said, I don't think that selling companies is the goal anymore. So it's like you have to find a way to do that. Obviously, with movies, there's still an element where it does kind of sell at the end, and every movie is just a business, and like you realize like each movie you make is its own business, and you kind of figure that all out. But like, man, there's such opportunity, and obviously, I'm sure you've been like seeing all the Marty Supreme stuff that's going on. Like, I think that I think he's done. I think he's done an excellent job in that marketing team that's done it, of like putting that movie out there for people to talk about. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know if it's good or not. Reviews are really good, but I look at that and I think about it from like a more micro version of like how people in the automotive industry can position a good movie in a completely different way than Hollywood has ever done. Or
like Sinners. I think Sinners is even a better example than Marty Supreme.
Also a fantastic movie.
I just watched it this weekend.
First time?
No, yeah.
Oh. Wait. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yes.
Loved it.
It was
right?
so good. Yeah. But like Sinners had a better opening box office than Marty Supreme.
Yeah, it did like 60 mil.
Yeah. And the marketing for Sinners was a lot of like technical film stuff.
100%.
Like Kugler talking about like aspect ratios and shit, and like giving the audience the benefit of the doubt that they're like interested in why this movie is good. And I think, you know, like I think first and foremost, I think of myself as like an entertainer, but the way that I've always entertained is to like educate. Like the 3 E's in Speed, like we came up with this after the fact, but it's like
I love this, by the way. I love justifying something afterwards and being like, this is the reason why we didn't do it, but why we should have done
honestly, that's what they all mean. So first and foremost, it has to be entertaining.
Yep.
If it's entertaining, then it also has to be educational. So if it's those two things, then we can put it out. And then the third one, I forget the third one. But the third one is like
extra. It's got to be extra.
Yeah, extra. Or like the third one's like emotional or like endearing, but it's like it's like basically like catharsis for me, or like sharing or whatever. So like it has to be those first two before it can be like super personal,
right?
You know, or else it's just like masturbatory. But like first and foremost, it has to be entertaining and then educational. So like I think, the press for around Sinners I thought was like really great.
Yeah, I think it spoke a lot to the filmmaker world. I'll give you 2 things or 3 things off of that. First, I made an homage to Sinners, aspect ratio changing in the beginning of Gymkhana Aussie Shreds. We go from what is like scope, like ultra wide, into like regular wide. Midway through, just because I thought that was such a cool thing that he did, where you constantly are changing aspect ratio. And I didn't realize it. Like I watched it in the theater, and it wasn't until like midway through that I realized it. And the only reason I realized it was because I saw a post about different aspect ratios, and then I went and like was like, oh.
And it was like a different experience depending on where you saw it. So like you get like the full experience.
Yeah, I saw it on 70 mil.
But dude, he changed aspect ratio like on actions. It was like, whoa.
No, it was great. Cool. It was fantastic. Then the other thing is, you guys did 3 E's in Speed, I'm imagining, so it would stand out. That was kind of like a search optimization thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to make it like a brand name.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Because I always thought the issue with Donut, like when Ben first came to me, was like that name isn't very easily trademarked. Totally. Where like Hoonigan was its own word. Like it was very easy for us to trademark it and protect it. And it also made it very easy to like search it, right? Because it was like the only thing that came up. So I was curious when I first saw that, because we were like, why misspell speed? And I was like, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was sort of like, for a while I was going to call it Power Baby.
Right.
Sometimes I regret not doing it.
I mean, I'm assuming Speed is sort of the up to speed connection.
Yeah, so it was like an homage to that. And then there's another YouTuber called I Show Speed.
Yeah, of course.
And he's huge.
Yeah.
And so, I think it was like SEO, but also to like make it not just car. I think just to make it like you said, like its own word.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I will be honest, I'm like 7 days old from realizing like, oh, up to speed. Like that just didn't click for me early on. Like it was just like car channel called Speed, extra E. That makes sense. Like visually, I liked it. Like I didn't question it. And the other day I saw like something feed to me that was like an old up to speed. I was like, well, that was a little slow. A little slow for me to pick that one up. There's also this like
painter, I think his name's Daryl White, and he did like a lot of the Pee Wee Herman like set design. And he does these like paintings where it's just like a saying and they like scale like really far away like that. And so I was like looking at a bunch of stuff when I started it, and I think the extra E sort of like lent itself to that. And so like our first logo is like kind of like a forced perspective, like scaling back kind of thing.
I dig it because I grew up in graffiti, and a lot of times if you wanted to like fill space, you would just add more vowels. So like if you had a tag and then you wanted it to like, but you wanted to fill the whole side of something, like the side of a city bus, you'd like just add more E's. So you would just do like, oh, I'm going to do my tag as whatever, and I would add 8 E's in it just to take up the whole space or something like that. It was like a pretty standard thing.
And so like we add extra vowels to, like we have merch that says cool with 3 O's.
Right. Yeah. Saw that. Yeah, man. But going back to making movies. So like, I don't know, do you want to do that next? Because like I want to do that next. I'm pretty
I want to do
honest about that.
I want to talk to you about this maybe off air, but like we want to do a magazine for Speed.
Yeah.
Speed Mag. I definitely want to make a movie. I wouldn't mind. I'd like to like explore the idea of like making a series, like a comedy series. And like, again, thinking about interesting ways to like publish things on my channel and then potentially licensing it to like Netflix or something like that. I don't know. I want to continue to do what we're doing and kind of explore like the filmmaking aspect of YouTube and like encourage more people to like make things that they think are good, because I do think that a lot of this algorithm jail is self-inflicted. And I want to encourage like other creators to like do stuff that you like, do stuff that you think is good. Cause I do think that like, if you make good stuff, people will watch it and people will find it. And then I just want to do like more comedy stuff. Like I kind of want to continue to like combine all of my experience, like with YouTube and then like comedy and stuff like that.
On the comedy thing, so I was asked in a panel, one of the panels that you didn't join on the Drifter movie, someone asked about your performance. And I said, I think the one thing that'll probably come as a shock is that you may be showing up thinking that you're getting James Pumphrey from Speed or from Donut, but you're going to get him playing a character that's like very serious and like has a darkness to him.
Which is the real James Pumphrey.
Is it the real James Pumphrey?
Yeah, dude, I got a deep darkness.
But like that was definitely, it was like interesting because you called out that role. Like I know that you wanted, I know you've said this on the podcast, so you don't need to repeat it here, that when Sung gave you the script, you're like, hey, I see one character I think I can fit. Sung saw that for you as well. Sung also plays a character that is unlike any character that I think people know him as.
Yeah.
He's not Han. He's not super cool, right? Like there's this completely different piece to it. But you want to make comedy stuff, but like, you're really good at that role. Like, because I think you did a very good job of that.
And I'd love to do those roles too. And I think that like the best dramatic movies are super funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like,
sure.
I think I would just like, I would like to continue to do everything that I can do to keep making stuff. Ideally, some of those things that I make will give me some tape that someone can watch and be like, hey, I think maybe he could do this other thing. Yeah. And then hopefully like, I would love to be in other people's stuff.
Did you listen to the Smart List with David Duchovny?
No.
It's very good because he talks about how it's actually all the stuff I didn't know about David Duchovny. Like I didn't know he was like an academic. I didn't know he could care less about sci-fi.
Yeah.
But he talks and also like how influenced he is by Charles Bukowski. But he talks about how like the greatest comedy comes in like really sad for like things, right? Like he played these, like you think about Californication, where it's like his story in that, which is a very Bukowski like character, it's really funny, but it's also really like it's really heavy, and he's like that's like his zone. Like he really loves this like heavy comedy that like works really well. But you've played a lot of like really like topical fun stuff, especially for like for that other stuff. But I feel like there's this other side of you that like, and again, I will keep saying this, like we don't really know each other that well, but this is now the longest conversation we've ever had. But that other side of it is something that like feels like you fit in really nicely.
I appreciate that. I would love to do more of it. I want to do.
Honestly, I'm just getting clips so that when you and I make a fucking killer movie, they go back to this and they're like, remember this moment where they barely knew each other? Now they own an island together with a racetrack on it.
Yeah. Right, accepting our Independent Spirit Award. Yeah. I mean, I want to do a bunch of stuff. I want to do, and I think I can do a lot of stuff. And I just want to, like I said, I want to do whatever I can to give people confidence in the idea of giving me an opportunity to do stuff I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny because when I left Hoonigan, I think a lot of people thought I retired because like I bought a farm. Yeah. Which like had nothing to do with any of that.
Well, it's like that's the
you
bought the farm.
Bought the farm, which usually means you die. But but the idea that like, you're done. Like you're out to pasture kind of thing. The reason I bought the farm very quickly is because in the couple years before Ken passed, he bought the ranch. He fucking loved the ranch to the point that I hated the ranch because we'd have these really important meetings and he'd be like, yeah, so anyway, look at these blueprints for the ranch. Look at this for the ranch. I got this design for the ranch. And I'm like, dude, we have to have a serious conversation. All you talk about is the ranch. But when he passed, there was this there was this solace and like, man, he really was enjoying life in the last couple of years. I can't say he always was, but he was, and I know it looked like he was from the outside, but he was racing cars and doing all this stuff. But like, he really seemed like at home with his family on the ranch, like doing cool ranch stuff, like chopping wood, these things that were like not part of his public life, right? Like he was just enjoying that time. And I had always wanted something similar for myself. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to buy a farm. Yeah. And I like over leveraged myself and like bought this property, like I did none of my homework, but I just was like, I could die tomorrow. Like, I'm going to go get this place. And then like, I still really love it. But like in that first year, I was just there all the time. And it was like therapy for me to be out of a city, to be away from everything, to like have quiet, to like turn my cell phone off, like all these things that, that were happening. Cause I went in this like massive, and I don't take this super dark turn at the end, but like I went to this massive, like just weird state of like, what is my life now?
Totally. I'm going through that right now.
This is all over. Yeah. I was like dealing with like all different things, like depression, all this stuff. But I was also in this, like, I fucking hate social media and I'm part of the problem.
Right.
Right. Like I had read all these books and I was like from, everything from like the Jonathan Haidt books to, Stolen Focus, like all these great books. And I was like, man, I'm part of this. Like I've created part of this problem for an audience. Like I thought I created positive content, but still I created this like dopamine distraction instead of like going out and enjoying the world and touching grass. Right. So I was like just going and doing that on my own and trying to like kind of find my way. Not all of it worked, but I went and really kind of enjoyed going and doing all that. But people really thought that like I retired and like it was over for me. I was working at another company as a chief creative officer, for Super Plastic and doing that whole thing. But I was like, I was just off to go do something else. But what I realized was like, and I don't know if you know this, but like when Hoonigan went bankrupt, I lost most of my money because my money was tied up in that equity. So like I did not do well off the Hoonigan deal. Yeah. Like it sold for pennies on the dollar for me. Right. So I wish it never sold because I would be in a better off situation if it was still there. But, but even if I had made enough money to not even retire, but to take a break, it was very obvious to me that I couldn't take a break. Right. That actually one of the biggest issues I had at Super Plastic was that like there wasn't enough going on for me. Right. Like it was like a very nice job. They paid me handsomely, but I was like started my day at 10 and ended it at 4. And there really wasn't much more expectation for me. And that like wasn't enough. And I realized and kind of trying to land this plane here, I think very similar to you. It's like, I just want to do a lot of things.
Yeah. I want to make shit.
I just want to make shit. Like magazines, books, movies, podcasts. I mean, the big joke is like, I've launched a podcast and I already have an idea for 4 other podcasts. Right. They all have me in them. But like, it's like, I just enjoy that. And that was like the thing that I missed. There's 2 things I really miss from Hoonigan. One is I miss showing up to work every day and seeing my friends. Yeah. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Like I wake up and I sometimes just spend the day by myself all day. Yeah. And like, that's just not as much fun. And like a bunch of us are trying to break that by being like, hey, let's just fucking catch up for lunch. Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. Do that. I work at my house and like my 2 friends come over to my house.
Yeah. We're in my house right now. Yeah. In my garage.
Sort I know the feeling. Like just kind of Groundhog Day sometimes. Yep. And so I really want to focus on having goals. And I like having goals that seem kind of like they need a lot of luck involved in them. So I don't know, you want to know, like there's something I thought when you were directing the 2 scenes that you directed me in and thinking back on like, it makes sense, that it contributed to, I think, like the success of the Gymkhanas and just like Hoonigan as a whole. I think you're like very good at understanding what the audience is seeing and like what they're going to be thinking while they're seeing it. And so like just the way that you like set up the shot, but then like communicated to like the actors as far as, all right, so here's what's happening. Here's what you need to do. Like it felt like very old Hollywoody. Like it felt like in a great way. I was like, all right, great. Like it felt like, you know, like you being like, all right, so like hang the rear tire over that.
Right.
You know, and it like wasn't in like a disrespectful way, like at all. It was just like, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's what you need to do to make that happen. I'm like, all right, sick. And, you know, I think it's like the same, like I watched some like BTS stuff of you guys talking about the latest Gymkhana where you were like, when he drove across the water, it didn't look like water. Like it didn't look like it was deep.
Right.
So you like sunk the other car and like put the boat in there so that the audience would know that it was deep.
Right.
And I think that's something, if like you take any advice, if you're like some sort of creator watching this YouTube, I think like thinking about what the audience is experiencing in the thing that you're making is something that's like really overlooked. And
Do you think so?
I do.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I think like very, like the most important thing, like that's the most important thing is like how the audience is receiving the thing. And I think that's something that we think about quite a bit and I think separates us from other people. And like you're very, very conscious, I think like GOAT level of like, here's what the audience is gonna see, you know? And so like
I appreciate
that's like
that.
a reason that like I would want to work on a big project with you. Cause I think we like share that like, okay, but then like, what are they going to think? You know, and it's very fun to like imagine that that's what it is for me.
I appreciate that. For me, I think it's so second nature for me to just think about it through that lens. I've never even thought that was not like that was not normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, and coming from the world of magazines, you're constantly thinking, what does the audience think of this? But you like never had immediate feedback. Like, so I'm one of those people who loves the comment well. Because good or bad, it helps me sort of understand where the audience is at. And I'm at a point now where like you could write negative comments and like I can either take them for real. Like there's sometimes you're like, man, that's a really good point. But then there are other times you're like, yeah, you're just the outlier. Just like the same outlier who says everything you make is great. Yeah. Right. Like there's both sides of that. Like there's those people in the middle that like really kind of find that. And I think that's one of the best parts we have in modern day content is that you can get that immediate critique. Sometimes bad, but like I think in general that immediate critique is so neat because it allows you to adjust how you make stuff. And like as much as previously I said that I hate things about YouTube, like I did really enjoy those analytics because you could sit there and be like, well, people stopped watching after this. Like what was it about this that wasn't good that I don't think like your average like movie directors get. Like they make a movie, it takes, you know, a year for it to come out. Sometimes they're not even involved in the edit. So like what it actually becomes versus what they directed is like two separate things. The script probably wasn't theirs. It was someone else's script. And then the studio gets involved and reworks the whole thing again. And then it goes out to theaters and then they get like professional critique. And like you can't, like professional critique is so different than what the audience thinks. Like what the guy who's reviewing it for Variety is so different than what the audience is. And I think that's like a really unique thing that me, you, and everyone else who's come up in this weird world that is YouTube content, like can really learn from. Because I know other YouTubers who do not look at comments at all. Like they literally just don't even look at it. I saw you guys posted something the other day about like you guys are in the comments and you're reading them.
We do. I have to manage it for sure.
Yeah.
Like I'm an addict and talk about like, I don't know how I didn't realize this until like this summer, but like I like showed up and I was like, guys, this is a terrible job for people who are addicted to like dopamine hits. It's like we'll like work real hard on something for like 2 weeks, then we'll put it out and like we'll either be like real happy or like kind of sad for the next 4 days. Yeah. And it's just then we'll like do it again and again and again. So I have to like I actively manage filling my life with other reasons to be happy or sad.
I can't imagine being a movie director and making something every 2 years and then having it fail. Yeah. Like the greatest thing about Daily Transmission was, well, if today's episode sucks, we got another one for you tomorrow. Yeah. Right. Like I get to fix my mistakes. Imagine working for 2 years and you put something out and it's like not good. Like that's definitely something I worry. But that being said, like if I could pick the things I want to do, like number one thing is originally I was saying second unit direct. action, but I think like I'm just gonna say it. Like I just want to direct a movie.
Should, dude.
Like that's the thing I want to really want to
I
do.
think you'd be good at it. I want to be in it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's make a movie.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Should we end on that? Or you got anything else? Let's just fucking end on that. Let's fucking make a movie.
Make a movie, bro.
Thank you, everybody.
The mailbox is full. The mailbox is full. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
If you know anything about me, you know I love mods. From car mods, garage mods, even house mods. I just enjoy modifying things, which is why I really love these fantastic robust shop stools. While they're great stock, Vyper also offers a ton of mods. Right now, the one I'm sitting on has the extra wide butt, for big boys. But you can also add cup holders, adjustable backs, parts trays, even armrests, which we're going to attach to these podcast stools. Anyway, check them out. Made in the USA. I love these guys. VyperIndustrial.com. That's Vyper with a Y. Typically on set, I can't wear sunglasses. Why? Because I'm often looking at a screen. And a lot of times it's hard to really see what's going on if my lenses are too dark. But Heatwave fixed that problem. These new photochromics, they adjust from almost clear to a pretty dark tint depending on the sun, which is great because when I was in Australia filming Gymkhana, it was one really bright, especially in the outback. And there's also a ton of flies out there. These prevented them from getting into my eyes. I don't actually understand how the technology works. They told me it's wizardry. I believe them. You should too. You should also get yourself a pair. And if you have an extra large head, they fit pretty nicely. At SEMA this year, I hit up the Toyo Tread Pass, which is the best collection of builds at the show, period. And while I went there initially to see the cars, I was really stoked to see that they'll be releasing a brand new tire that I know is going to make you track rats happy. It's the Proxys Sport R, a new extreme performance track day tire, and it checks that 200 treadwear box. Those of you who actually race your cars know why that matters. This super grippy tire is set to drop next year, coming in over 50 sizes, covering 13 to 21 inch wheels. Well, that's right. Whether you drive a Mark 1 Rabbit or a GT3 RS, the Sport R will fit the bill. And as you know, I've rocked Toyos forever. I got them on all my cars and trucks.